Okay. Take my green selfie. Hope you ever do have enough show. It's my show. So, go fix your ass.
Hey, good morning, everybody. How are you? Welcome back. It's the Nathan Ivey Show. One man, one microphone, one mission. On today's show, I want to talk about numerous things. I want to talk about the fact that the Biden administration looks like they're going to put a lot of energy pushing to get Harriet Tubman to replace Andrew Jackson on the $20 bill or the $20 note, however you want to call it. Does it equal disrespect? Is this a high honor? We'll talk about that. Got a couple of, or at least one guest confirmed this morning, and that's Cincinnati School Board member Ryan Messer. He's scheduled to give us a Zoom call this morning at about 8:30 a.m. approximately. We'll have him for about 15, maybe 30 minutes. We'll see how it goes. And we'll talk about some of the latest developments. And there are latest developments in the ongoing issue as it relates to CPS's decision to return to virtual learning. So we'll talk about that this morning. And then, I'm not sure if you saw the show yesterday, but yesterday, as I was going through the video, the live stream from CPS's board meeting back on the 20th, which was Wednesday, someone's name came up. There was a parent who brought up the name of someone to the Cincinnati School Board, and she was challenging them like, have you been meeting with this individual? Are you influenced with him? I had no idea who this individual was. So I put it out in the show yesterday, and you won't believe who called me last night as I was preparing for the show today. Apparently that individual saw the show, and he may give us a call this morning at about, I think we said 8:15 a.m. So it could be real interesting. Plus, I'll give you an update on some things happening with CDM and how you can be involved. All right. Good morning to you. The show gets started in about 30 seconds. Please take a second to like and in particular share today's show. Again, when you share the show, more people see it. All that and more coming up. It's the Nathan Ivey Show. Again, one man, one microphone, one mission, and we'll get started in 60 seconds.
Supported by listeners. Go to www.patreon.com/Nathan Ivey Show and help Nathan keep the show independent.
Yeah, talking to my mirror like I love you so much. Curving on my critics like I heard you, so what? You can't kill my confidence, I think I'm the man. Tally all the I ever gave on my head. Lately I've been living like I can't take a loss. They ain't wanna help me, that's what made me a boss. You can't kill my confidence, I think I'm the man. We don't give a that's what they don't understand. I'm back again like flu season. I broke records while loose leafing. I'm coming down my roof, leaving. Don't give a I don't care. Did the for my lonesome. No wonder now I'm on one. No shortcuts on that long run. All I really want is my share. Get on my God, on my told them it's nothing. In the discussion, for them feelings I throw on my pain on percussion. It's disgusting. I hear them bragging about that they did, and it do not move me, not in the least. They ain't been dropping no seeds in the soil, but swear that you almost spotted the feast. I've been on go mode, showboat, rowboat, wave ride. Cool shorty, too naughty, pool party, wet for the face ride. Annie up, penny down, hand me down, thrift store, old drip. New money, too funny, old shorty talking about, oh. I'm on they now, can't get a pass now. I'm a cash cow, keeping it brash now. It's trash now, I'm spaz out. I've been killing my lows and living on highs. You see in the skies the proof. You could just see in my eyes that there is no lies. I cannot disguise the truth. I've been ducked off.
All right, good morning, everybody, and welcome back. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you. Let's get this show started, shall we? There's a lot of things that I would like to discuss this morning. Let's see if we can bring that cam up. Yeah, there we go. There we go. Hold on one second here. I'm looking good.
Curving on my critics like I heard you, so what? You can't kill my confidence.
I think we good now. Yeah. We better. How are you? Hey, welcome back to the show. Dandruff, we looking good. How you doing? Hey, good morning to you. Hey, listen, take a second to like and in particular share today's show. I'll say it again. When you share the show, more people see it. Very, very simply. As I said, I want to talk about Harry. Well, when you listen to this show, you're going to get a sense of what's happening in terms of, what's relevant to our audience on a daily basis. Of course, I always come prepared with some flows to direct the conversation, but I always welcome you to join the conversation as well and share your observations about what's happening in the world, and if you think it's relevant. Now, for folks who don't know, we're broadcasting live from Cincinnati, a secret location in the Cincinnati area, city in which I was born in, met the wifey here, raising a family here, created a business here. These are where my roots are. This is my focus here. But we talk about issues that impact, in particular, Black people all over the country, and if not the world. So good morning to you. So again, please take a second to like and share today's show. How are we looking out there? We looking good? Great. Okay, good to hear. Again, please like and share today's show. And if you want to call into the show, 513-873-7134. Let's talk about Harriet Tubman for a quick second. The Joe Biden administration is fast-tracking. They're saying that they are committed to getting Harriet Tubman on the $20 bill. And this is after Donald Trump, the former president, he delayed it. This conversation was really, really hot, maybe during the tail end of the Obama administration going into the Trump administration. It makes you wonder, why didn't Obama fast track this, right? He was the first Black president. It makes sense that he would do something like this. And then Trump came in office with his white supremacists and his white agenda. And that was the last thing in the world that he was really trying to do. I'm not sure if that was the part of the platinum plan or not. I don't recall. But there's been a lot of conversation about it. I want to share some flows with you, at least give you my thoughts. I'm going to give you a strong opinion and to bounce your own thoughts off of. Now, if you don't know who Harriet Tubman is, she was an American abolitionist leader who escaped slavery and then led many other slaves to safety using the Underground Railroad system. There's been a couple of books and a lot of movies. Most recently, a movie came out called, was it Harriet? I think it was called. It was played by a sister who is not an African American. I think she's from the UK. There's a little bit of controversy over that. I'll say it again. I mean, obviously you can be an actor or actress in anywhere in the world and you're acting, but if you want to get the soul, you got to have those foundational Black American roots, in my humble opinion, but you might feel differently. Oh, what's up? Good morning. But I want to get your thoughts. I mean, how do you feel about Harriet Tubman being on the $20 note, the $20 bill? Is that a good idea? She will replace Andrew Jackson, who, at the very least, I think we can all agree, doesn't really, in my opinion, deserve to be honored in any way in this country. So no matter whether she gets on a $20 bill or not, I think that most people would agree that that bastard doesn't deserve it. If in fact that's an honor, like, is that an honor to be on to be on American currency? Let's start right there. Is that an honor to be on American currency, in your opinion? Tell me what you think. I mean, just think about it. Ryan writes, I agree, Nate, FBA all the way. I feel you. What's up, Ryan? Good morning to you. Good morning to you, Pat. Tanika, good to see you. Ray, good morning, everybody. Is it an honor to be on the $20 bills? Let's start right there. Is it an honor? That's my first question for you. Before we get any deeper into this and pull the onion back a little bit, that is my first question. Also, if you're just tuning in at 8:30 a.m. approximately, so in about 45 minutes, we're scheduled to get a Zoom call from Ryan Messer, who's a white male Democrat member of the Cincinnati School Board. I believe he is up for re-election this year as well. So we'll get his thoughts on his decision and how he arrived at his decision for CPS to go back to a blended learning model during a pandemic. Can't wait for that. Looking forward to it. And then on Thursday, I told you inaccurately yesterday that it was Wednesday. On Thursday, we're scheduled to speak with Carolyn Jones. She's the school board president. So I did reach out to all of the school board members. And, of course, we have Mike Morosky on. We talked to Pamela Bowers today. We'll talk to Ryan Messer. In 2 days, we'll talk with Carolyn Jones. Let me double check here. I haven't heard back from Melanie Bates and or Ben Lindy. And I did hear back. Who's the other white female who is on? Let me double check here real quick because I want to make sure I can speak. I want to speak intelligently about this, give you an accurate assessment of when you can hear these individuals on the show. Let me double check here. Oh, Eve Bolton. So we'll talk with Eve Bolton on Tuesday, and she's going to Zoom us. So that'll cover all the bases. I mean, we'll still need to talk with Ben Lindy, and we'll still need to, because there's 7 members of the school board. And we'll still need to talk with Melanie Bates. But again, like I told you, it's my endeavor to talk to each and every one of them. They might all say the same thing, that they elected officials and we need to hear. So get your questions ready for Mr. Ryan Messer coming up 8:30 a.m. today. All right, but back to this. We're talking about Harriet Tubman. Good morning to you, fam. If you're just tuning in, good morning. Come on in, come on in. And in a moment, we're going to hear a word from our sponsor this morning. Again, a great way of supporting this show and this platform, and our mission is supporting those in terms of sponsors that support me and this platform. So it's a Black-owned business. If you're looking for say it with me, dream home, a dream home. I like the way that sounds, dream home. Well, I've got someone that you might want to contact this morning. We'll talk about that in just a couple of minutes. But back to this. So Harriet Tubman, the Biden administration is fast tracking it. Jim Paskey, who is the new White House press correspondent. It's refreshing, isn't it? It's refreshing to have a White House press correspondent that isn't lying to your ass every time they open their mouth. And speaking of lying ass press secretary, did you know that this Sarah Huckabee is now running for governor in Arkansas? Lying ass motherfucker. I wouldn't elect her to, and I was going to say something very inappropriate, but I won't. But there's no job that I would ever elect her to. I got a clip of her doing an interview with Australia Press. It was actually, I think it was ABC Australia. They have an affiliate in Australia. And she was, it's from last year. She was like touting her book. And I don't remember what the woman's name. It was a white female who was a journalist. She wasn't having it. It's the best interview that I've ever seen of during the Trump administration of a journalist, like holding, right up there with Clay Cane. Clay Cane did an excellent interview with Omarosa where he held her feet to the fire, and sis got all in her feelings. She was so dignified until dudes started asking her some real questions and holding her accountable and not taking the BS, as most people are. And it was great. So it's right up there with that. Most of the mainstream press, they get weak-kneed. They don't ask proper follow-ups, and they care about being friends and all this other nonsense, instead of doing their job for the people and holding these elected officials accountable. Somebody remind me, I've got that queued up. I'll play it for you if we get to that. But it was refreshing to watch a press conference and you feel like you're actually getting information from an adult whose sole purpose and sole audience isn't just one person, who might be watching from his White House bedroom, surrounded by empty cartons of quarter pounder cheese cartons and White Castle cartons. And he knows, you kind of get that feeling that all the press secretaries under Trump, there was just an audience of one. They didn't give a damn about the American people. All they cared about was making sure that the dude with, McDonald's ketchup on his lapel was not going to get messed, in his feelings after they left the podium. It is refreshing. I'm not saying that everything she says above the board, I detect no lies so far, but it is refreshing to hear grown-ups talking about what matters to grown-ups. It is refreshing. But anyway, so I watched it, and the Biden administration, quote, "It's important that our notes, our money, if people don't know what a note is, reflect the history and diversity of our country." I'm all about reflecting diversity of our country and history. I'm all for that. Aren't you? The Biden administration is exploring ways to speed up the release of $20 bills featuring abolitionist Harriet Tubman. This was first initiated by the Obama administration, but he was on his way out the door, and he kind of left this for the Trump administration to finish. The Trump administration was far too obsessed with talking with the Russians and, paying off strippers and lying for Trump. And, oh yeah, don't forget this, passing tax breaks for wealthy people that don't really need it to really do anything else. They were obsessed with those three things. They had no time for anything else. So now this is on the doorstep of Joe Biden. And I want to get your honest thoughts about this. What is your gut? What is your honest thoughts about this? Is this a good move? Would this be an honor in your opinion? Again, 513-873-7134. Is it a good idea to put Harriet Tubman on the $20 bill? Is it a good idea in your opinion? You tell me. Now, while you think about that, I want to make sure we get a quick word in from our sponsor today. Today's show is being sponsored by Otis Wellburn Jr. Realtor, and you can find them at thewellburnexperience.com. All right, so here's the word from our sponsor. Think about the question for today, and I'll be right back.
It's that Wellborn experience. It's that Wellborn experience. The Wellborn experience. 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 It's that Wellborn experience. The Wellborn experience. The Wellborn experience. Experience. Tell us what you need. That's the question we start with. We specialize selling condos, houses, apartments. Make sure that you're happy with your residence. Keep it real, no filter. Otis the realtor from the nattiest heaven sent. It's the Wellborn experience. Ain't nothing like it. Every time he talk to his client, he's so excited just knowing he able to put them in a place to lay their head, not focusing on his profits, but on the client instead. Right. He keeps it so professional and from his conversation. You can tell he studies before sharing information. Educated, motivated, ain't nobody better. Who's willing to walk you through every step to relieve the pressure? Yeah, and just so you know it's real, you get a special personalized rug once he closes the deal. So go and call him up so he can get you live. 513-252-1055.
Again, that's 513-252-1055. If you're looking for a dream home, call Team Wellburn. Call Team Wellburn this morning. Again, 513-252-1055. You can find their website or you can find them online. Their website is thewellburnexperience.com. Say it with me. Dream home. Dream home. I like the way that sounds. And when you contact them, make sure you let them know you heard about it on the Nathan Ivey Show here with a CDM. Good morning to you. Let me see. I got a little. Make sure I'm looking good this morning. You know what I'm saying? Good morning to you. So let's get back to it. So what do you think? Good idea to put Harriet Tubman on the $20 bill? I want to get your thoughts. Let me go to the choppers first this morning. Yeah, okay. Pat Rice, good morning. Good morning to you. I think I read that already. Let me jump forward. Sharp Rice, good morning, Nate and the Choppers. The minister writes, what's up, Nate? Let's talk about Harriet Tubman on the $20 bill. Let's do it. King Koblat writes, yo, Nate, how many pissed off insurrectionist patriots will there be when Harriet Tubman's on the $20 bill? You know what I'm saying? Right. Hey, Cassandra, she writes, hey, Choppers. She writes, I honestly could care less who is on the currency. Show me some policy intangibles and then let the face on the currency be the king on the cake, be the icing on the cake. What we not about to do is toss us a $20 Tubman bill, then transition to a cashless society and think he did something for Black America. Close. Miss D writes greetings. Ashley writes good morning, Nathan and the Choppers. CG Dub, that's Chocolate Girl Wonder. In case you don't know, she writes good morning, Choppers. Tracy writes hi. Ray writes, Nathan, did Dusty Rose commit to an interview with you? No, Dusty Rose doesn't want to talk to me. I saw Dusty Rose, I guess I follow him on Twitter. Makes sense. I try to follow a lot of people that make news here, but I saw that he was going to be on another radio show, put it that way. Right wing radio or white male only radio, however you want to look at it. That's the case. And so I just added to that comment, like, hey, that's the easy road. Talking with these dudes down the dial, that's easy. Coming through this is like a briar patch. It's going to be a little rougher for you. So, come over here, bro. But no, I didn't get a let me double check here. I did not get a response. I don't anticipate getting a response either. But again, I'm going to send it out no matter what. So, whether I get a response or not. No. Hey, what's up, Jesse? Good morning to you. What's up, Mason Mahler? What up, everybody? What up? What up? Chris Silbach writes, hopefully you'll talk about how your transphobic comments put the lives of LGBTQ plus kids at risk and apologize. Your comment is exactly why #Leah Alcorn took her own life. Chris is going hard. Okay. I told you yesterday, I disagree with Chris on this. I disagree. I didn't detect any bigotry per se. Maybe somebody can school me on that and educate me. There are people that got different opinions when it comes to the accessibility to our public places, especially like bathrooms and locker rooms. When you're talking about transgender people, primarily in high school. Now, adults is different, but you're talking about minors. Yeah, I mean, it's a form of bigotry to believe that there's only one opinion on that. But it is what it is. We are where we are. Again, 513-873-7134. Let's talk about Harriet Tubman. In your opinion, is it a good idea to put Harriet Tubman on the $20 bill? I read to you what one of the choppers said. Cassandra's like, hey, I don't give a damn. And you know what? Let me share my opinion with you so you know where I'm coming from. My opinion of it is that I remain unconvinced that putting somebody on American currency is like some big honor. I remain unconvinced. I mean, I can understand why some people say that way, but I'm not really so sure. But in particular with Harriet Tubman, I think it would be disrespect. I think it would be disrespect on a couple of levels. And it kind of touches upon what Cass said. So on one level, why is Harriet Tubman considered an American hero? Why is Harriet Tubman considered an American hero? Well, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, family, but from what we've been told is because she was an abolitionist. She was risking her life to fight against the evil of slavery. And the way she fought against it was to literally guide people from slavery to a free or a freer America, right? Now, she still had to deal with racism, but slavery and racism is two different things, right? If you had to choose between the two, most people are going to choose racism, right? We don't want no antebellum in here, okay? So that's why, she was against the commodification of non-white people. Okay, what do I mean by commodification? I mean reducing somebody to just being, like a cow or a moose or a horse. You're just a thing. You're just a thing that I can buy and sell and trade. The auction block. They used to put black bodies up on the auction block and auction us off, separating our families. Why? We don't have any feelings. You're nothing more than human chattel, nothing more than a thing. The commodification of our bodies. So for me, and I don't want to get too deep with it, but for me, it seems almost oxymoronic to now commodify her, right, on the currency. And that's what she was against. I mean, that's how I look at it. We got to find a different way. I'm not saying she doesn't deserve recognition. I think she does. But on the currency, that seems to be exactly against what she was fighting against, right? So she was fighting so that black folks weren't reduced to currency, and then we're going to put you on the currency. That doesn't make sense to me. You know what I'm saying? Just in my brain, it's just not computing. I know there's a lot of strong opinions out there. People might feel otherwise, but I think we'll all agree that Harriet Tubman fought so that black bodies weren't reduced to currency, something to be bought and sold at the whim of their white slave masters. So now we want to put her on the currency to honor her. There got to be a better way. I mean, so there's a couple of things here. Number one, Andrew, if in any way being on American currency is in fact an honor, and that's still debatable, okay, then I think we would all agree that Andrew Jackson don't deserve to be there. I think we all agree without this. Anybody's like, you know what, Andrew did a lot of good things. He wasn't all bad, on some Mars shot type ish when she was talking about Hitler. He wasn't all bad. He was good at first, And then he just exterminated 6 million people. But before that, he was cool, right? I know is there anybody out there on some of that kind of ish with Andrew Jackson? Like, previous to Trail of Tears, he was a good guy. I don't know. You can stand up and share your thoughts on it. I mean, but for me, if in fact there's any honor to be given, if it's in any way venerable, right? Some kind of reverence, some kind of platform or pedestal to be on American currency. And that's debatable because of all of the evil shit that people do for American currency or in the name. But he don't deserve that, right? Is Andrew Jackson on Mount Rushmore? I've said it from day one. They need to get his ass off ASAP. We should rethink that whole Mount Rushmore thing. Like, if there's a push to put Harriet Tubman on Mount Rushmore, let's do it. Okay, I'm with you. We gonna do it in stone? Everybody can see it for all time. Aliens looking down from the heavens can say, oh, damn, they got a black person on Mount Rushmore? Cool, I'm with it. So no, he don't deserve that. So two different things are going on here. But is that the proper place to respect, to immortalize a woman who fought against reducing people to currency? I don't think so. That's just my opinion. The second part about it is, and it goes back to what Cass said, memo to the Biden administration. This don't mean a fucking thing. Let's call it what it is, though. I mean, it's cool, even for the people. So this is multi-layered. So even for the people that's like, nah, Nate, you wrong. I don't know where you coming from, bruh. $20 bill, that'll be a great thing. Even those people, I think, would have to agree with me when I say that that's not equity, policy, intangibles. Man, if you don't get some policy down here, it's slightly disrespectful that in terms of being like the first black thing that he's talking about, this man's talking about some damn Harriet Tubman. Like, yeah, sis needs to be respected, but where that agenda at? The whole lift every voice? Where's the agenda? Where is the dollars? Release the Kraken. Where is if you really care about the diversity of America and all this other nonsense, then where's that Black Wall Street policy to put more money, or at least the more access to opportunity for the descendants of Harriet Tubman? You know what I'm saying? Because while, slavery in terms of the physical, like you are a slave type of thing, unless there's some pockets of antebellum out there, if you've seen that movie, I'm talking about, that is a thing of the past. The debt slavery is real. So let's talk about debt slaves, Biden administration. We need a modern day Harriet Tubman to get some people out of debt slavery. Never can get ahead, robbing people to pay Paul. Money comes in, money goes out the first day, that kind of thing. Stimulus checks comes in 2 days, it's already gone. 70, 80% of it going straight to bills. I mean, come on now. Let's not get caught up with the past and these symbolic gestures like that's going to really change anything. You know what I'm saying? Even if you're like somebody that's like, oh yeah. So to me, I feel like what Biden really should be doing is focusing on that black wealth building piece, focusing on that equity policy tangible piece, and then slide in this whole thing with Harriet Tubman along the way. This shouldn't be no focal point. And so we'll see how they deal with it. That's just my opinion about it. I mean, I ain't impressed. I'm just trying to be honest with you. I'm not impressed. I remain unimpressed. So what, Biden? Now, where's the dollars? Where's the money for black-owned businesses? Where's the money for the creators and creatives out there that have something inside of them where if they had the access to capital that their white counterparts had, then they can go out there and get a whole stack of Andrew Jacksons or whatever. It all spins. Somebody on Twitter, I saw a tweet. It was hilarious. Somebody said that when they put Harriet Tubman on a $20 bill, it will instantly be worth $15 because of the pay disparity between black females and everybody else in America's workforce. I thought that was ironic and very hilarious. So that's how I feel about a family. I mean, let it be known. One, how is this respecting? So we're going to commodify a woman that fought, risked her life so that black people weren't reduced to things to be bought and sold and traded to women, their white slave masters, commodifying black bodies. Okay, I still struggle with that. But the number two, this ain't what your black agenda is like 19 pages long. This is where you starting? This should be like something you just throw in. You know what I'm saying? This shouldn't be like the main ingredient, man. You better get to the choppers, Biden administration. Get to the choppers, man. Get to the bucks. Get to the real equity policy intangible part of the black agenda called Lift Every Voice. Where if you look at it, you know, it was quite lengthy. It's quite substantive. But that's how I look at it. I ain't convinced. I'm not impressed. I'm not like, oh yeah, good answer. No, grandma, it's a terrible answer. It's a terrible answer. You better get to the cracking. Release the checks. That's how I look at it. But what about you? 513-873-7134. If you want to share your thoughts this morning, I'm here to receive it. Sean writes, good morning, Nate and the Mighty Choppers. Good morning to you. Jane writes, good morning. K.R. Mitchell writes, good morning. Sean writes, morning fame, or maybe means morning fam. Charles writes, Grand Risings, Nate and the Choppers. Say OJ Wellburn's in the house. What's up, OJ? He writes, good morning, everybody. If you're looking for your dream home, start right here. Start right there if you're looking for your dream home. Okay, we getting an early call in. Okay, let's do it. I'm all down with that. Let's go straight to it, all right? 513-873-7134 if you'd like to share your thoughts this morning. Hey, good morning. Welcome to the show.
Good morning, Nathan. This is Sarah.
Hey, what's up, Sarah?
Hey, cost of living. And in that respect, let's talk about this gun. I'm on the same page that you are. And I know a lot of people may see some element of pride or attachment to something like this being done, but it's just an image. How does that help us in any way? I don't care if it's almost like a slap in the face. From my perspective, wait a minute. We were property. We were money, basically. We were looked at in such a negative and inhumane way. I don't understand why this is such a big deal. It means nothing at the end of the day. There is some argument about money. Yes, they are trying to take actual bills out of the market. And if people are not aware of that, they should be. They are trying to get money out of actual cash money out of the system. They're trying to digitize it. So what purpose does it serve? I feel like I said, it's a slap in the face. You're not giving us anything that's tangible. You're giving us, something to just placate us for the moment. Now, if Biden signed all these bills, all these EOs, I know that Senate just got in the session and all this other kind of mess, and I know what has to be done as far as the political process is concerned. But what we need to look at right now is what's being done for the people that put him in office. That's what my concern is. We've been waiting too long. It's always hurry up and wait. When are we going to get in this frame of mind where we need to go and get our check? That's what my viewpoint is on that.
Hey, Sarah, thanks for the call, man.
Take care.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, we agree. I mean, she fought against the commodification, reducing, human beings into money, currency. And now people think it's some kind of respect or honor to put her on the currency. Intellectually, it just don't make any sense. It just don't make sense. Just off the surface, to me, it doesn't make any sense off the surface. In terms of real-time politics, I hope that Biden is more than just doing what Trump didn't do. Okay. Yeah, this came up during the Obama administration. I mean, what I would say if Obama was really serious about it, he was in office for 8 years. You telling me he couldn't have pushed that from the beginning? You wait to the very end if it's that big of a deal? Trump decided, with his white nationalist, white supremacy agenda on the low, maybe on the mid to low, because we could see it. He put that to the side like, we ain't doing that. Black woman? Nah. But debt slavery is real. To me, if you really want to honor that, if you really woke and thinking about doing something relevant, then what's the policy to relieve the burden of all the folks that's dealing with, debt slavery? You know what I'm saying? It's a brand new financial plantation out there for a lot of people. What you going to do about that? I mean, we can all agree that she was right. History tells us that the slave owners were evil and they were wrong. We get it. Okay, name some federal buildings after or something like that. $20 bill, it just seems to be a slap in the face on two levels. It's a slap in the face because, and again, I know her family's been involved and they're like, yeah. And I can see that for family members. Some people are just desperate for any kind of recognition, right? So, the government says we're going to do something for you. Oh, that'd be nice. Every time I look at $20 bill, I can see my great grand uncle and all this kind of an auntie and all this kind of stuff. Okay, I get it if you personally link to it, but so what? What's it going to change? Nothing. And then all the evil stuff that people do for $20 bills, all the craziness, the mayhem, the drugs, the murder, the kidnapping. You're going to put her on a $20 bill. You got people out there, that have been reduced to modern day slavery as sexual slaves for $20. And you're going to put her on the $20 bill. The more I think about it, I just don't get it. But I don't work for the Biden administration, so I can't tell them. They probably won't listen to me anyway because they want to do, as Sarah said, they want to placate us. How does this matter? I'm still struggling to figure it out. I'm still struggling. Maybe you can help me with it. 513-873-7134. I don't think it really does matter, quite honestly. I don't think it really does matter. Hold on one second. I'm getting a message here. Okay. Yeah, most definitely, brother. I'll hit you up today if you're watching. Yeah, most definitely. Let's get it popping, man. Let's get it popping. Before we go any deeper, man, I want to let you know that I do something called Patreon. And Patreon is a platform that allows creators to raise revenue directly with their audience. And for me, I'm all about amplifying Black voices, underrepresented voices in the greater Cincinnati area and beyond. But I do have a Patreon feed. You can go to patreon.com/Nathan Ivey Show. And one of the many perks that you get is you get access to this. This is the Podcast Collective. I do this on a monthly basis for my Patreons only. And it gives them updates about what's coming up with CDM, new podcasts and things like that. And as you can see, we're going to make Black History during Black History Month. You can get access for as little as $2 a month through my Patreon feed. And there's a link in today's description, and you can just follow the link and follow me and follow us on Patreon. For as little as $2 a month, you get updates on upcoming shows, recaps, things that CDM is working on. If you're interested, it's just another way of supporting me and what we're doing with CDM. All right. As you can see there, we're teasing some branding there, right there. And I'll reveal it first to my Patreons very, very soon. It's called the Podcast Collective. Usually it's like a 2-pager. That's just the first page. Usually it's a 2-pager. And I want to keep it that way because it's very manageable and I can give all the information I want to give out to and still do it on a monthly basis. But for as little as $2 per month, and then what that gives you is access to sort of the behind the door additional. It also gives you access to Fade to Black, which is a show I only do for my patrons. All right. So if you're interested, Patreon.com/Nathan YouTube.com/The Nathan Ivey Show. And there's a link in today's description. Again, you can join the feed for as little as $2 per month. All right. All right. 513-873-7134. If you want to share your thoughts this morning, I'm here to receive it. I'm scheduled to get a phone call here in a couple of minutes. We'll see if the guy gives us a call back. So yesterday I was talking about, what's his name? Matt Sampler, I think it's his name. And, my question was, it came up in the CPS board meeting. A white female put his name out there. She was like, have you guys met with Matt Sampler? And I'm like, well, who the hell is Matt Sampler? First time I'm hearing it. She's like, don't lie. And he's a lie. She kind of make it seem like he was kind of like some kind of influence. He had some kind of influence over CPS. I had never really heard the name before, so I was curious. So I put it out there on the show, like, anybody know who that is? Well, apparently it got back to Matt. And Matt watched the stream from yesterday, and he gave me a call last night. It was about, I was doing what I'm doing now in front of the computer, but I wasn't broadcasting live. It could have been about 7:30, right? I was right in the middle of something, actually. And so I couldn't really, give it a whole lot of attention. I told him, call me today. He said, yeah, I'll give you a call about 8:15. So we're 8:15 right now. So Matt, if you're out there, I would love to hear it. And he told me a little bit about his story. He was, as Fame would say, disgusted. He was very not happy. He was not happy. And he told me a bunch of things that, he had to deal with. He said, I'm just a hardworking American that cares about CPS just like everybody else. And he started telling me some other things as well about himself that if he calls in, he can share that for himself. But I thought it was interesting. Grace, the power of media, that I had no idea who he was. And apparently he caught the show yesterday. I could tell at first he was mad at me, but I had to caution him, like, well, bro, I didn't say anything negative about you. I just simply wondered who you are. I don't know who you are to say anything negative about you. And I think he got that real quick. So he said he'd give us a call today at 8:15 because I told him I got Ryan Messer coming on at 8:30. Now, he could be busy this morning. Matt, don't get busy on us. Don't get scared now. Don't get scared. I told you, I'm a fair dude. If I bring your name up, you can always call in and set the record straight and speak for yourself. You can always call in, set the record straight, and speak for yourself. I'm always about that. Let me see here. Yeah. That was yesterday. Yeah. So, maybe he'll give us a call. Maybe he won't. But I thought it was interesting. And I can't remember everything he said. Like I said, I was working on something else yesterday, and I couldn't really give him my full attention. So I had to end the phone call. I'm like, let's save it for the air. And I told him, you can set the record straight, talk for yourself. He said that people inside the chat room were like coming at him or something like that. I didn't read any of it. I don't doubt it. You know what I'm saying? Welcome to the internet, Matt. It is what it is. But, maybe if not today, we'll catch up with him real soon. Coming up at 8:30 a.m., we're scheduled to get a Zoom call from Ryan Messer. Ryan Messer is a white male Democrat. I believe he's a Democrat who is a current member of the school board. Matter of fact, he's the school board vice president. Well, we're talking to executives this morning. School board vice president. I do know he voted against Mike Murawski's motion to delay the opening of the schools to March 1st. And speaking of which, I do know that CPS has started the vaccines. They're going to start the vaccines a couple days early, as if that really makes a difference. Yeah, CPS is going to start the vaccines for CPS staff this week. Yes, CPS public school staff vaccinations to begin ahead of schedule. And I think they're doing this because sooner is better, right? Which makes sense. And then, the CPS school board is hearing a lot of flack. Now, I did have since we're talking about this, my memory just got jogged. I was scheduled to speak with a CPS teacher this morning. I was scheduled to speak with a CPS teacher at 7:30. I teased it yesterday, right? Well, something happened. I got a message last night from this CPS teacher saying that they were not going to be able to come on because, CPS had basically put out a memo saying, coming up with some more rules or whatever in terms of engaging the media. I asked him, did this come from the administration or did it come from the board? And I was told that it came from the administration. So the superintendent was like, nah, y'all ain't talking. So, take that for whatever it is. You know what I'm saying? And then For what I was told or gather, it wasn't like you can't talk, but because these rules came down, this individual kind of felt like, you know what, maybe keeping my job is a good thing, right? And see, that's how they get you. Yeah, you got freedom of speech. Say what you want to say, but could get difficult on the job. And the one thing I'll say about CPS, as I've observed, is that, see, now we understand this. Now we understand this because from a parent standpoint, I am a parent. What I've seen is that school administrators will try to retaliate against you if you speak up and hold them accountable. Oh, they'll do all kind of stuff, try to get super disrespectful with you. But that's the culture at CPS. I know we got a black superintendent. I support you, sis, but it is what it is. I've said this to her directly. It is what it is. There's a culture of retaliation in CPS, not just from administration to teachers. Now, how do I know that? Because that's what the teachers are saying. I mean, we played it yesterday. I don't work for CPS. I'm just telling you what teachers have said. Teachers feel this way. And there's also a culture of retaliation against parents that hold their school administration and teachers responsible. How do I know this? I've talked to black parents and white parents across the board. Now, you can say this is just a people thing, and maybe you're right about that, but we dealing with it. We are what we are. It is what it is. I thought it was quite interesting. So CPS administration doesn't want teachers to talk with the media, or maybe, by the letter. Again, I did not see the memo, which I would be interested in seeing. And again, I'm willing to go to jail to protect my sources, just so you know who you're watching. If I got to go down there during COVID to stand up to my journalistic principles, then let's do it. Nobody can make me say a damn thing. And I never betray any sources ever. Anybody who knows me will tell you. I got people that ask me different things, even away from the mic. I don't know nothing. I ain't got nothing to say. That's just my style. So if you tell me something and say, Nate, it's off the record, it's off the record till death, period. Or maybe a long time incarceration. Like, they hit me with that the isolation, man. I've never been there before. I might crack under pressure, but as I sit here right now, till death, I just want you to know the kind of man that you are watching and talking to. I take it very, very seriously when people share information with me. I don't know nothing. I ain't seen nothing. I ain't saying nothing. If that's what the agreement is. If that's not the agreement, then I feel free to share what I need to share. Simple as that. So anybody out there, you can feel free. Again, I've gotten information that could have made me money, thousands of dollars in the pocket, no doubt. But if you tell me don't say anything, then there's no money to be made. My integrity is worth more than any amount. There's no amount worth more than my integrity. None. So just so you know. So I thought it was quite interesting. I thought it was very, very interesting when I got that. So I respect it. I was like, I understand, to this individual, he or she, whatever you want to call it, this individual, them, they, us, we. So I understand you got to pay those bills. I get it. You got to pay those bills. So this individual was gung ho to come on, and then sent me the information last night. Like, Nate, I ain't gonna be able to do it. I respect, no pressure. I respect it because you have to take care of your household. I get it 100%. Let's see. KR Mitchell writes, I think I read all of these. Yeah, we're Kelly. Kelly writes, good morning. Good morning to you, Kelly. Good to see you. Lisa writes, good morning, beautiful people. Good to see you, Lisa. Chuck writes, what's up? What's up, Chuck? Danita's in the house. She writes, good morning, everyone. I opened my eyes, and that started a terrific Tuesday. Listen, I feel the same way. It is terrific to be alive. Alicia writes, good morning, God's morning, Nathan and Choppers. Good morning to you. What up, Jason? What up, man? Most requested podcast in the building. He writes, top of the top, Cincinnati, get busy. I love that. Crutha's in the house. She writes, good morning, Choppers. A lot of S's there. I feel like I need some more sound effects. Hold on, let me get to the Choppers real quick. Give me 1 second. Let me see. Yes.
You ready to shake up the world, radio man?
Almost. There it is.
Get to the chopper!
Let me see. Danita writes to Donnie, did you have a great birthday? That's right. It was her birthday yesterday. Andrielle writes, good morning, all. Brandy writes, good morning. Good morning, everybody. Baldhead writes, good morning. Deshauna writes, she's on YouTube. Good morning, Nathan, and everyone. Have a good day. Who the heck had a bright idea to put Harriet on the $20 bill? Why not the $100 bill? I'm just saying. I'm with you on that. All right. So it looks like we got Ryan Messer backstage. Hey, Ryan, can you hear me? I think so. Can you wave if you can hear me? Yeah, he can hear me. All right. Well, listen, he's a little bit early. Cool. I love early. Let's go straight to Ryan Messer. Hey, what's up, Ryan? How are you?
I'm doing well.
Good morning to you.
We just had a little visitor, so my apologies.
Oh, no apologies needed, man. It's all about the babies. It's all about the babies. How are you this morning? I think did I just ask you that? How are you this morning? Good?
Great.
Good.
You know, it's chaos, as I'm sure it is for lots of families. Some probably are listening in here, just getting the kids all in the right direction. And it's always chaos to get to this point where I can actually sit down at my desk. So,
believe me, I know. So how old are your children?
1.5, 4, 5.5, and 12.
And 12. Oh my God. But that's a good little spread though, because the 12-year-old helps out, right?
No.
Really?
We'd had a girl, and I think he sees this as all just distraction from the things he's trying to do with his friends. So, I mean, a little bit, the 5.5-year-old's kind of his muse. So he kind of puts him up to things and puts him out on TikTok doing some crazy stuff. But the rest of them, I think he's just fine to keep on moving.
Okay. So of your children, your 12-year-old is your 12-year-old in Cincinnati Public School?
He's not. He's my stepson.
Your stepson, okay.
He's in New Albany Public School.
Okay. And then your 5.5-year-old is what? That's pre-K, right?
He's kindergarten.
Okay, kindergarten, okay. And now is your kindergartner at CPS school?
He is. North Avondale Montessori.
Okay. I like that. That means you got skin in the game.
And then the 4-year-old, she's in North Avondale Montessori preschool.
Okay. So you got skin in the game. Okay, good.
Definitely.
So for folks who, don't know you or know anything about you, just tell us a little about yourself, and then also include how long have you been on the CPS board?
Well, my background, my name is Ryan Messer. I will say, just to clarify, I have absolutely zero connections in relation to Messer Construction, which I think was a big question when I ran for office. I grew up, what I say, on the far west side of Cincinnati in a town called Rising Sun, which is a very poor rural community, the poorest county in Indiana, and faced lots of challenges there, but it was a great place to grow up. I graduated from Purdue University as a first-time college kid from my family, and then worked for Evan Bayh when he was governor of Indiana right after college. And then 23 years ago, came to a company called Johnson & Johnson, where I've been 23 years now. And so that's my career. Kind of on the side, I've been on the school board, which has been wonderful. This is my 4th year. So I am running again this year on the ballot this fall.
And you're currently the school board vice president. Is that correct? And if so, what does that mean? So what responsibilities does the vice president have?
Well, I spend a lot of time working with our president. I think she and I have gotten into a pattern of at least a call a night, maybe a couple during the day, where we're checking in, and we together planned our retreats, and kind of work through the areas of board development. But also, as vice president, I also sit on committees. So I'm on the finance committee this year, and then also I serve on the health and safety committee, which we had a meeting yesterday.
Okay, I want to make sure we get all out there. And again, if you have comments, please feel free to put them in the chat, and I'll try to bring them on the screen. And how much time do you have this morning, Ryan?
I got as long as you need.
Okay, cool. Great. I'd love to hear that. So let's jump straight into it, man. I mean, the hot topic now is a decision by the Cincinnati School Board to return to blended learning for all of this calendar year. And when was it? We started this back in November, where everything went to virtual. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember exactly when that was, but I feel like it was around the Thanksgiving time frame.
Yep.
So then we went virtual through December, and then, as you know, made the case to go back. My phone's ringing. Of course, it's the superintendent. I mean, this is just the way of the world today, you know?
All right. Right. You can answer. We'll just listen in.
No, yeah, well.
Go right ahead. We had her on a couple times on the platform as well. And I want to reach back out to her.
And I would say continue to have her because, you know, as I have publicly stated a few times, I don't think there is a better superintendent anywhere. And I think we don't even understand as a community how great of a leader we have in Laura Mitchell. And as I said at our retreat on Saturday, I think we have put obstacles in her path. And I publicly stood against that and said that I think someday we will see Laura Mitchell as the Secretary of Education. I honestly believe that. And we'd be better for it. Not that there's anything wrong with who we have now. I could tell you she'd be leaps and bounds better than old Betsy that we had and put up with for the past 4 years. But
I know
keep
that's
an eye
right.
on Laura. She has endless opportunities, and we are lucky to have her here today. And when we were dealing with her contract, somebody said, "Oh, well, is everybody supportive of this?" Is the first time I think in a long time we've gone to 5 years. And I said, "No, I'm not in favor of that. I want 18 years because I've got a 1-year-old. You know, I want her around while my kids are in school." I mean, that's how much I believe in her.
Okay, that's good to hear. I hear a lot of great things about her.
Yeah.
So let's just jump straight to it. So I'm a CPS parent, just so you know. I have a kindergartner, and then I have a sophomore at Walnut Hills. My kindergartner is at Fairview. So, you know, I got skin in the game as well on both ends. You know,
Very good. Thank you.
I got a daughter who is 2 years away, and I got a son who's just starting. So, you know, I'm committed to this for the rest of his public education while we're here in Cincinnati. So let's just jump straight to it. You know, I'm concerned, as are a lot of people, about the board's decision to return to blended learning starting February 1st. I know that you're in favor of it. And my question to you is, why? You know, how did you arrive at that decision to return to blended learning starting on February 1st?
Well, and I appreciate this discussion because, you know, we don't really have the opportunity to talk about openly like all the things as we each go through. You know, they kind of give us a few minutes. Okay, got to keep it quick. Let's keep moving. Just because these meetings have gone 4 and 5 hours, and I think the public is maybe not wanting to hear as much of our debate. We need to really be listening to our community. You know, but the decision wasn't easy for me, and frankly, I know I'm well aware of my privilege. I mean, there's some areas of my life, if you know, I'm, you know, gay. I have a husband and children. We faced our own obstacles along the way. I've been a freedom fighting person for a long time for all equality, but I still understand my privilege, and that is I work for a good company like Johnson & Johnson, where my other half can stay home and he can he literally sits with our children from 8 until 12:30, 1 o'clock every day. It would be easy just to say, yeah, let's just stay in this remote learning. You know, I didn't run for the school board for any other reason than I believe education is the great equalizer. And I'm an ardent supporter of public school and making sure that what we do at CPS, and I think with Laura's leadership, we are establishing it as a best in class. We had some of the best metrics. Maybe we didn't place as high as some of the other schools, the private schools, et cetera, but we were the fastest, or we had the highest improvement academically of any urban district. That's a big deal. We're raising the game for our children. And I do think about all children. And you know, what I love about North Avondale, if anybody knows about that school, you know, in talking with our administration, et cetera, it is one that kind of reflects the diversity of our city. You have kids on every end of the spectrum, from a socioeconomic standpoint. It's very racially diverse. You know, my daughter's in the minority in her class. But it's not just African American, Caucasian. It's children of Asian background, et cetera. And you know, I think the hardest thing to watch through the pandemic is who's showing up on a consistent basis in our classes and who isn't. And, I hear people say, oh, well, parents just need to make sure their kids are on. Well, Sunday, I was together with a friend who is head of engagement and inclusion at one of the major health systems here in Cincinnati. And she talked about kind of the challenges of us not being in school for many of their frontline workers. Her making minimum wage, cleaning hospital rooms and doing patient intake and all these things that, part of their struggle that they share during their engagement work is they don't have a choice. There was no help to get them childcare. They just were told, you come to work, you don't make money. And, this perception that, people who don't have lots of money are just at home hanging out and they can do this is totally wrong. But what we have, as I see on the screen, when I go in and watch on my kids' screens, there's a segment of our kids that we are missing. And, and I think we are going to see the impact of COVID, not just I think we're going to see psychological impact, social emotional impact, but the academic impact is going to be real. And obviously we're going to have to do some makeup work later. But kind of the first thing was, what's the right thing to do for our kids and their families? And as much as we've heard today, and I've heard a lot, and I read every email. I was up last night for 2 extra hours. All I did was read and try to respond. I just can't keep up. But I also hear on the other side, and I hear single working mothers saying, I can find childcare. Maybe I can find my aunt or somebody who could do this. They can't do the homeschool. So you can keep them out, but there's nothing happening with my kid. They're not gonna be able to show up. And that's the hard part for me. And so on the other side, I've seen, working for Johnson & Johnson, we actually have one of the vaccines coming. So we're getting kind of real-time updates, kind of as the field is kind of playing out. And, when we went remote with CPS, it was at the time where my company went remote. Then we made the decision that our people are back out working in our buildings and, working in the hospitals, et cetera, right now. And, with the safety precautions in place, et cetera. I think it's just the challenge is trying to balance all of these priorities. I do agree that there is a segment of our staff that I've always spoken about through my time on the board. Yes, we have our children who are my number one priority. Number 1A are the people that bring this to life, our paraprofessionals, teachers, lunchroom workers, and everything else. And I do think, and that was actually what my call was this morning to the superintendent, that there are people who are high risk. And I think that's a nuance, and that's why I called. I just said, can you give clarification? Because at my company, let's say you have an underlying condition. You're not forced to go back to work. You work through a risk mediation plan to figure out how you can work and make an accommodation based on your safety. And that I wanted to get more information because somebody specifically asked me that last night in an email. Here are my conditions. And I thought, well, if I was king of the world, I would say we would make an accommodation that's right for you and still be able to, keep the machine moving. So I think there are nuances that we have to really dig in and get our plan right. But that's a little bit of the complexity, frankly, of how I've approached this.
Okay, appreciate it. Speaking with Ryan Messer, he's the CPS board vice president. We're talking about the plan to go back to blended learning. As a parent and a member of the community, what concerns me about COVID and CPS is I kind of feel like, I feel as if there hasn't been enough of a focus on the overall public health. So last year, we started the year in virtual, and then the decision was made to go to blending. My concern at that point is that, and I equate COVID to like a burning house, right? So like if your house is on fire, you call the fire department, they would come to your house. You'd be standing outside with whatever belongings you could grab and maybe some family members. You would not go back into that house, Ryan, until the fire was completely extinguished, correct?
Yeah.
You wouldn't go back into the living
room. Sure. Yeah.
Right. You wouldn't go back and chill in the living room if the bedroom was still on fire. And I feel like that's what CPS did last year. Like they went back to blended before we'd even got to the flu season, and there were still so many questions and so unknown. And then it exposed a lot of people to COVID just to go back to virtual. And so now in February, Hamilton County is in the purple. And even by the standards that the state is going by, right? The infection rate is higher than what it was last year. So like looking from public health, teachers still haven't been vaccinated, although I know within the last 24 hours, the news is out there that they're going to start the vaccinations this week. But they still won't be fully vaccinated before they're in front of the students. So what's being put in place so that we don't do the same thing or make the same mistake again now that was made last year, where we go from virtual to hybrid? What's to stop us from going back to virtual again and thereby exposing a whole lot of people?
Yeah, and I think these are all valid concerns that, lots of people share. And I think I heard a scientist kind of talk about, there will not be, even with a vaccine, nobody will be 100% vaccinated. I mean, there will be some people that it may not work as well as others. So even with a vaccination, you can't be 100% safe. I think the other piece to this is, what Laura, I think, did a great job of is giving us a purview of, well, she brought in experts from Children's. I heard lots on social media, like, you guys aren't healthcare medical experts, et cetera. You shouldn't be making these decisions. Well, we did have a couple of identified, and we got lots, people were pleased that we brought in what Children's called were two of their best that work in this space, that guide us, and they helped bring order to some of the chaos, because I think you have a board who's very diverse in our backgrounds and everything else. We needed somebody who was a medical expert to help bring the data to us in a way that we could understand. So that was part one of what Laura did. And I really asked, if you were on one of the board meetings back fall, I said, if this was your kid or this was your spouse being a teacher or whatever, what would you do? And, and I think in some of those cases, they said, well, here at this point, we would be concerned because we were still collecting data at that point. I think what we have now, and, kudos to the superintendent for starting to aggregate this data last fall and then bringing it forward. We have data from other schools that are in session. Now, you can't compare us to Indian Hill. I am well aware of that. You can't compare us to any number of the suburban schools. They're just going to look very different. But what we asked for was a subset of schools that did look like us, like a Purcell Marion and some of the parochial schools that are the exact students that we serve. And we looked at those subsets and were they in? And the answer was yes. And based on the data that they presented, was there a significant spike in infections, both with students and staff? And what it was presented to us was the answer was no. Not that there's no risk, but at least it wasn't like we were just making this blindly. We were looking at that. And then I think what was important for me is I also was trying to figure out, are we the only ones doing this of the major urbans, the kids who look like us? And so I was personally going on every night and seeing what the Columbus School Board was doing and what was their data showing and Googling. And I think anybody can do that. They're actually going back to the exact same model we are. And probably having some of these same debates, if we would just, go up there on the radio, it's probably some of the same concerns and questions. Looking at
slightly different, Ryan, because they were in virtual this whole time. They never broke that like CPS did.
Well, I was referring to the fact, that whatever decision they made to go back February, I still think they have people saying, hey, we should do it or we shouldn't do it. I think the consistent is there is no 100% answer. And, we did a survey and, I am a fan of doing more of those. It's what my workplace does, a lot more of these to our customers and our employees, and our customers here, our families and children, and of course our employees, and getting that feedback in. And I even said that at our last meeting, that it would just help me understand kind of where they are as a group. But the largest data that we have was a survey that had about 6,000 respondents. And, they showed that it was very diverse. in who took it, what schools the kids came from, or whatever. And it's at that point that I realized, I knew this was not going to be an easy go forward plan, period. And it was a 51-49 split of what our opinion was in our community. And it wasn't along racial lines. It wasn't on socioeconomic lines. It was fairly evenly distributed. And so
this survey was done of CPS parents.
That was one that Laura presented last fall.
That was last year. Yeah, that was last year. So,
right.
So my question is, you say you're a fan of surveys. Why wasn't there a survey done this year? Because there's so much that's changed. The infection rate in Hamilton County has gone up. Right now we're in the purple. And I think that information would change people's opinion, don't you? So why wasn't there a survey done previous to this decision that you made in January?
Yeah, and I absolutely agree that is something that should have been done. And I think we should continue to do it. And, as I brought up, Walnut, I will publicly say that's something I'm hung up on, because before we had the vote, I said I would feel a lot better if we did a survey. And I think there was a disagreement from one of our board members that said, well, then we'd have to survey everybody. Well, okay, let's do that. But the difference for me with Walnut was we're asking the Walnut families to go from 6 feet to 3 feet. So they're actually not getting kind of the standard that we had set. And so because we're asking those families and students and staff to do something different, I really felt like we needed to ask for that. And I still believe that. And I've even said that again, that I think we should have this discussion. I shared that with the superintendent last night. Again, we are a 7-member board. We all have different opinions. And I think that's what makes us tough. We are not texting back and forth. We're not calling people routinely on the phone, asking opinions and those types of things that gets us in trouble with sunshine. So what you see, and sometimes it's messy in the public. People say, oh my God, that meeting was like crazy, but you're actually seeing the sausage being made and people really debating there for the first time in front of people of what we should do. Right. So, I think that is something we still have to figure out, because
I'm sorry, Ryan, whose decision is that to get a survey? Is that the board that directs the superintendent, or does that motivation come from the superintendent? Because it's like you're kind of flying blind. Like, using the data from last fall, to me, is faulty. It's far less than scientific, because so much has changed, and it'll change attitudes between last fall and now that we're in purple here in 2021. So where does that momentum and that directive come from the board or the superintendent?
Well, my opinion is, and as Ms. Jones, our president, mentioned, I'm going to be presenting kind of a board engagement plan, how we get more embedded into the community, because we are the representatives of the community. But then part of that's also then how we ensure that the community is also engaged in our processes, because I had the number, whatever the number was, that it was like 2,883 emails that I've gotten since December. That's engagement, and I love, and people on both sides making their case. But we need to be able to quantify it, because all I can say is it's roughly 50% this way. If you go through the emails, we need to be able to quantify that. And I think public needs to see just how conflicted, the people are in their decision. I want this, but I know this, and I want this. But so what I believe is, the superintendent in the structure reports to the board, as does the treasurer. And what I believe we have to do is, we have to get in the habit of asking the superintendent for her recommendations, which that was kind of the rub that I had on Saturday. We had some people where she publicly said, hey, I was told by a couple members of our board I was not to give my opinion. Well, I about went off, because I'm like, we have to have the subject matter expert who works all day, et cetera, aggregating this for a bunch of people who this isn't a full-time job. I think, some people, I had somebody I saw on Facebook, which you shouldn't read the comments sometimes, when you're maybe down in the dumps a little bit of struggling, you read these comments. But, one was, they're getting fat off the company dime, just like council. Well, we make up to $5,000 a year, and it's kind of a per meeting. It's not like we have a salary. We don't have a staff at City Hall, for each of us that's dedicated to all this. So I rely on the administration, because this isn't my full-time job. to do that work and present to us and make an informed decision. And I don't think I can do that. And I think that's what you'll see kind of in this proposal is, here's what the staff said, and here's how we got there based on this input from our staff. And I've been a big champion of this employee engagement work that we're doing, which is really getting the voice of the employee forward. Here's what I've heard from our families. And I want it broken up by school, by race, by socioeconomic status, and be able to give us a view of our district to say, all right, weigh that in, and how did you weigh? So that's the questions we should be asking. Great. Well, what did you hear from this group?
Right. I agree. But back to the question. So in terms of making sure that there's a survey put out, where does that momentum come from? Is that something that comes from the board, or does that come from the superintendent?
My opinion is, typically it's done from Krista Boyle is kind of our chief engagement officer. So she is our communications person, et cetera, and deals with all the community learning centers, et cetera. She's the one who typically has brought that information forward. I guess the point I'm trying to make, and that's organizationally where it fits, and she directly reports to Laura, so she brings that voice in. And I think what we have to do is then make sure that we're asking as a board to, at every point along the way in decision making, that we have that feed directly in front of us, so we can see on a dashboard kind of where our public is. And I think, it'll help show the community where the community is, because I'm guilty of that. I think about the world from where I am when I'm being asked a survey and that type of thing, but I also want to know where I am in context to everybody else. And am I part of the majority or am I part of the minority? I want to know that. And so I think that's where we could, build that a little bit more deliberately in our process, so it's part of the presentation as we're making the recommendation.
I understand what you're trying to say. So let me ask more directly. Did you ask the board, did you bring up and try to, as a motion or whatever procedural processes that the board uses, to say, look, before we make this decision, let's get a survey from CPS parents, because things are different now in 2021. We're in the purple now. Is that something that you brought up? And if you did not, why not?
Well, yes, I brought it up about this change to Walnut. What I didn't bring up that I think you'll hear in this presentation is we now need to have just a process. So I still believe we should do that for the Walnut, that we're asking it to go from 6 to 3 feet, because I have not gotten very many by comparison. 3 feet's good. I haven't gotten, frankly, just single digit percentage versus the overwhelming majority that says, come on, if it were 6 feet, we're good. This is 3 feet. And we're being asked to do something different. And I understand that. We shouldn't ask people to be an outlier when it comes to something that we declared as kind of a safety standard.
Absolutely. Do you think that's safe? Do you think it's safe? Do you think 3 feet? And again, there's an arrogance that's going on with human beings, right? Yeah. Where human beings think that we've got Mother Nature completely figured out.
Mm-hmm.
The scientists are on top of it, but every day, Ryan, we're learning more and more about COVID. There's new variants. I read within the last 36 hours that now, for the first time in the United States, they're finding some new variant from south of the border. I don't know if it's Mexico or
Brazil. Yes, Brazil. I heard it on NPR this morning.
Brazil variant. So there's so many unknowns with COVID. So I just caution people to say, well, the medical experts, these local experts are not on the front line internationally or nationally. They're getting their information from the people who are. And the people who are saying that there's a lot we don't know. So do you think that 3 feet of space between people in a school building like Walnut Hills is going to be safe?
Based on the data I have today, no. And so, that's why I think that we have to have that conversation. And, as the superintendent said, my board members, if they're listening, are probably going to be upset with me because this is not a world where you can just make a decision and it's always that forever. And to your point, you're only as good as the data that you have in front of you. Now, what I did hear on NPR this morning, where I'd heard about the Brazil variant yesterday, had me nervous. Then the expert they had on today said, well, based on the efficacy of the vaccines that we have, it may not be as effective as the other, but we still believe you'll be safe. So they were encouraging people to say, don't give up on this vaccine. You're going to be safe. It just may not be as effective on the the first string. So again, it just constantly gives you like, we're all in that environment of trying to assess the data at hand. As it relates to the 3 feet, if you remember, if people were listening on Saturday of our board meeting, our medical advisor made the case that 3 to 6 feet was safe. And then the same person, I think whatever happened then at our last board meeting said, well, 6 feet is the safest. Maybe it is safer than 0 to 3. And so, to me, that was a very different presentation than what I had heard on Saturday, which gives me the opportunity. Yeah. So I said, okay. And I talked to Carolyn about that. So it's not like I'm not following my process, that I think it's something that we still have to discuss.
Well, Ryan, it begs the question, and I'm glad that we can agree on some of the bases of these things. So we both agree that 6 feet is much safer than 3 feet, and 3 feet is not that safe. So it begs the question, Ryan. Last week, Mike Morosky, your colleague, put forward a motion to delay the opening to March 1st rather than February 1st. You voted against it. Why?
Well, I think it goes back to the other conversation. If just speaking of Mike, and this is out on his social media, out of all of us, his kid is the only one that's going into a school every day. He's going to a community preschool that has a nursery, and he's going there every day. And there's teachers there, there's staff there. He's taking his kid in. And while it may not be a CPS school, he is going there every day, and he's public about it, and he's put it on Facebook. So clearly that environment is safe. And I question, then why is it not safe for our kids? But it goes back to the complexity of the question that we talked about earlier. And, if we wait until, 6 months from now to bring kids back, and we don't look at, like, how do you balance risk? If the data that we've got that shows us that infection rates in schools that are in session, that are practicing safe distance, et cetera, infections aren't through the roof. We had lots of infections when people weren't in school. They're just getting in the community anyway. And so if you can look at demographics that look like our kids that are in school today, and they're able to show that their infection rates didn't go through the roof, they're fairly consistent with community non-in school. To me, it said it's what's best for our children to make sure that we're getting our kids engaged in their learning. So it's not just the kids who have somebody that's a stay-at-home parent who can sit with them for 5 hours that's participating. We're getting to the children, and this is a piece, and I really believe we need to talk more about it, who isn't showing up in these lessons each and every day.
I'm frustrated, Ryan. I got to be honest with you. I'm frustrated. But let me go to the audience here because people have a lot of questions. Lisa wants to know, why does the board still meet virtually? And so I guess to expound upon that is, so now the board has decided that it's safe, even though you just said you don't think it's that safe to be 3 feet at Walnut, but it's safer or safe enough to go back to 2-day a week in school learning. Is the board going to continue to meet virtually? Or are you now is Mayerson Academy open? Are you going to open it up for public hearings?
Yeah, well, so going back to the very beginning, we were doing this kind of in person and not. And what we agreed was we would follow the schedule of our students. So our next meeting, you will see us go live in person. As you know, the central office has continued to be open. So that building is open already. When we had our board retreat, we were there last Saturday, and we will be there again this Saturday. And then our meetings going forward will be back in person. So I know I had gotten lots of messages from friends of the community, like, why aren't you guys meeting in person? And I think that was a good clarification. In fact, as Ms. Jones will say, I said, I think she needs to clarify that at our next meeting, that just a reminder that this is what the policy was we set in place, that we would mirror that of our schools.
Will it be open? Will the meetings be open to the public? Maybe it will be, not the same amount, but will the public be able to come to Mayerson and view the way they used to do?
That I don't know. I think that's a good question. I should ask Miss Jones, because what we were doing when we were before, I mean, as you know, I think we should always have this virtual option because, I don't know that any public meeting that I'm aware of has had the type of engagement we've had. We've had 2,800 people on some of our calls. Obviously, we could fit just a small fraction. So whatever we do there, I think we also have to have the virtual because we've got a lot of parents at night. They're trying to fix dinner and get kids ready for bed. It's given them an opportunity without having to drop everything, drive 20 minutes, wait to the thing that they care about, and then drive home. And then, I think it's opened the doors for a lot of our families to actually participate. So that's a good question for me to follow up with Ms. Jones.
So the other question that, is at the top of everyone's mind is, and I want to get your thoughts on this, because again, Mike Morosky put a motion for it. He was the only one to vote for it on Wednesday that would have delayed the opening of CPS going back to any in-school learning to March 1st. And everybody voted against it, including you. Why? What's the difference in your mind in terms of why it was a bad idea to open on March 1st as opposed to February 1st?
Well, as I go back to the very beginning of this conversation, I believe in our superintendent. And while she may have been asked by some not to give her opinion, I have never made an opinion without asking her opinion first. And in a conversation that I had with her, I mean, you can see the pain in her face of just how hard this is. But what I got from her is our children need to be back in school. And then what we need to do right behind that is make sure we are moving heaven and earth to create the most safe environment possible to protect our staff, et cetera. And do I think there are high-risk people, as I mentioned earlier, again, that we need to make accommodations for? Absolutely. I think that's the standard that other companies are doing. I believe we need to go through our staff and make sure those people that are high risk, we had somebody whose wife is expecting and they're very concerned. I would be too. So let's have that conversation and make sure that we mitigate it, those high risk patients. And that's, again, what companies are doing when you look at kind of how people have opened up and people that are working that type of thing. But if my superintendent had said, we don't feel that we can create a safe environment and we believe the kids are okay, I would have followed that too. But I have to rely on our superintendent as the expert in our city who wakes up every day, spends every weekend, night, not being respected in some cases, as I've seen on social media and that type of thing. Because what I know she wants to do is establish this district, continue establishing this district as a best-in-class public school district, regardless of if we're urban or suburban. She wants to make us the education destination of choice for our city, and I believe in that. And I think that as she did all the work to prepare our staff, what I needed most was that guidance from her. And then I looked at all the factors that I'm seeing, because if that's my number one feed, then I need to see, like, am I seeing in our classroom that there are children that are being left behind? Yeah, when I see the screen. I mean, I know how it is with us to get a kid to sit there. You probably know this too with a little one. And that's with two parents that are engaged and are at home. Now, my work has gone back, so I'm not going to be home as much anymore as I was previously. But, we have some kids that are struggling for those reasons. But I will say the number one driver of my decision was the summation of everything the superintendent has looked at, and the belief from her that, to me, that our children need to be back in school.
Yeah. So you're saying this is a conversation you had with her privately? Because publicly, it was board member Ben Lindy who asked her opinion. And she very carefully said that, my job is to execute the will of the board.
That's right.
She was very adamant about that. And that is the role of the school board, to tell the superintendent the directives. So again, my question is...
Well, going back to that, so what you heard from me was, when she gave her response, that's when I kind of blew up. and said, no. This board, everybody comes as an individual stakeholder with their own, everybody's elected and whatever. We are not waking up every day, all day with a team and pulling in experts and talking to the health department and working with health commissioner, doing all these things. We have to have a recommendation of the superintendent. And when I went through school board training, they said, you guys set policy. There's your power. You hire and fire the superintendent and the treasurer, and you entertain recommendations on the running of the school district by your superintendent and treasurer. So we are to entertain recommendations and then question, and then ultimately decide. And I think we've gotten whopperjawed on this one, where you've got all these people, out here that as I publicly said, I think we have to get back to trusting our expert, the person who wakes up every day, who we hold accountable to at least give us her recommendation. So yes, I publicly stood against whoever that was, and I still don't know because it was the one meeting that I missed that allegedly that conversation took place last fall. And I said it then, and I said it again Saturday. That is an absolute miss if we allow that to go on, because truth be told, what I've heard from the community is nobody did that to the previous superintendent. So why are we doing that to Laura? And I think that's a question that we all have to be accountable for.
I'm still trying to get to, the difference between starting March 1st and February 1st. So let me give you my viewpoint on it. And I think it's echoed by a lot of people in the community. The difference between starting on March 1st and February 1st is that it will allow teachers and staff to get vaccinated so they could be in a more safe environment. And then it also gives us 28 days to look at the data, to look at the infection rates for Hamilton County. And what I still don't understand, I'm trying to figure out, is from a school board perspective, why not start on March 1st when, by all accounts, it would be a safer option? I don't understand that. That's what the teachers are saying. For parents who were on the call on the 20th in your meeting, that's what most of them were saying. Like, everybody agrees that we want our kids to be in school. The only reason they're not is because of COVID. Doesn't really matter what your lifestyle is or whether you can homeschool your kids or not. All parents across the board, I think, with near unanimity, agree that being in school is better. I know that's the way for my kids. The reason that they're not is because of COVID, because of the threat of catching a disease that could be lethal, or at the very least, have some debilitating health effects. So that's what I don't get, Ryan. I mean, we both agree, you said out of your own mouth, that the Walnut Hills plan is not safe, okay? Yet you voted for it. So having said all of that, why did you vote to return to March on February 1st and not March 1st, when March 1st appears to be on all levels a safer option?
And April 1st would be even safer, and May 1st would be even safer, and June 1st would be even safer. So I'm with you that the longer you go, the safer it's going to be if we follow the trends in the community. And, it appears that the majority of people are going to get vaccinated. And that was a good fun fact, fact yesterday from the Health and Safety Committee meeting. I think the other point to this, yes, if you push it out, it is safer. We have lots of schools that reflect the diversity of our schools. Again, going back to the benchmarking of who looks like us and what does that data look like. And those are operating without a vaccine. And they do, again, it's not like I'm trying to compare us to schools that don't look like us. So schools that look like us, as I've seen the data presented, without a vaccine, they're operating without seeing major spikes within staff and or students. And so, I think data that I was shared is that, you're 52% vaccinated after the first vaccine. And then it goes up to whatever the number is after the second one. I think it's in the 90s. But this is still, and I think this is a great thing that our superintendent did, is we did get expedited. And I saw now people out in some of the other districts are upset that they're back in school and they're not getting vaccinated before CPS, who's not even in school yet. And that is a reality. We did get fast tracked to the front, and this is a credit to our superintendent, the relationship she had to the governor, that we have been placed ahead of some other districts that are already in school today. So I hear you that yes, the further you push it, it's likely the safer it's going to be. And
right. So Ryan, what's to be gained? So we both agree March 1st would be safer, right? And I'm glad we can agree on that. So again, the question is from a school board perspective, right? Your job is to set policy. Your job is to keep everybody safe. You believe that March 1st is safer than February 1st. Then why did you vote to return on on February 1st and not March 1st? It's just 28 days if you want to look at it from that standpoint. But on the positive side, you allow for the staff to be fully vaccinated, both doses, right? You allow for us to get more data in terms of the infection rate, which at this point is 53 per 100,000, which is higher than the data that was presented from, at the school board meeting back in, it was back in the fall of last year.
Mm-hmm.
So again, I that's what I don't understand. What is the rush for February 1st when it's less safe than 28 days later? I don't get it.
Well, so the question is, do I feel that February 1st is safe? It's safer. And guess what? April 1st is safer than March 1st. And May 1st is safer than April 1st.
Yeah, but Ryan, those are not on the table, though.
Well, they're kind of are, because I got messages yesterday that said we shouldn't be back until we've reached herd immunity. Said we shouldn't be back, period.
That might be smart.
And so at what risk that our children at CPS wait that whole time when the kids are going to be competing with for scholarships or for jobs or for whatever are going every day. And so what we have to do, and I think this is the tough part of decision making, you have to find the point of intersection. Like, at what point are you safe enough that you believe you have, data to support it? Like, are other people doing it? Yes, that was a go light for me. Am I seeing other employers do it? Yes, that was a go light for me. And what is my superintendent saying? She believes the right thing to do based on everything that she's looked at, all the advice from the health and the health department, et cetera, and all the children's experts. It's the date that was proposed. And, again, it is just such a complex answer that we're trying to create. And that's, yes, what is the date that you can feel that you are safe? Is it the safest? Well, you could push that out to whenever, herd immunity or whatever. But when is it safe based on the data we're getting today? And, what are the needs of our children and our families? And I think that's a piece that we need to do a better job of representing.
Yeah. Well, when I was watching the 20th live stream, there was a lot of interesting, interactions with the teachers and the parents. A lot of interesting interactions, and I think it was speaking to a lack of information out there. So you talked about the academics. There was one parent, and again, I want to get your response to this. So if the concern is academics, some parents are saying that with this hybrid plan, they're going to get less instruction time with their teacher than they are getting right now in virtual. So if they're getting less instruction time, Ryan, how does that benefit them academically?
Well, a couple of things. I mean, again, it's so complex. So I think on the one hand, you could say, yes, the kids that have somebody that's sitting and they're showing up every day might get less time. But the kids we're not seeing every day that aren't showing up, that are going to some child care center because their parent is struggling, making 1 or 2 jobs, minimum wage. They can't afford a child care option that gives kind of one-on-one care. They're getting 0 days today. So having 2 days in person is a lot better than where they were. Now, would my kid probably get a little bit less? Yeah. The majority of kids, what is that percentage of those
that demographic you just spoke of? What percentage of the kids does that represent that we're speaking of?
Well, this is what I believe that we need to ask publicly, because Ms. Jones, I think she's somebody that, again, I talk to quite frequently. Her daughter's a teacher, and her experience is the exact same experience that I'm observing as to the number of kids not showing up and who those kids are. And I think, truth be told, I think there are some people that are maybe nervous for us to present that data, because it's going to look like maybe we didn't do what we need to do with the taxpayer dollars. We should have found a way. You how dare you have a levy and you didn't get to these kids? Well, there's a variety of factors of why we couldn't. At the beginning, we had technology problems. Some kids just didn't have internet. So and I applaud the superintendent for the partnership she made with Cincinnati Bell to get free or nearly free internet for thousands of kids. That was a big accomplishment. My nephews who are out in rural Indiana, when they were remote, you didn't get any engagement with the teacher. They gave you packets, and you were to print them out. If you didn't have a printer, good luck. So I at least saw what we were doing is, pretty amazing to get internet access to people that didn't have it so that they could engage. And we gave devices even to preschoolers. And that wasn't even done in the wealthy districts. But still, there are factors that will limit a kid that some people with means can just not understand. Well, what do you mean you don't have childcare that somebody can help them? Well, I can introduce them to lots of people that have informed me of what that's like. But I think part of the story, it's important to make sure that we're publicly talking about the attendance and the demographics of what we believe are some of the most that are impacted.
Right. And again, Ryan, I appreciate your time. I know, you're getting a lot of heat right now, but, it comes with the territory. But I appreciate your time this morning. So again, going back to the academic piece, I'm still concerned about what that breakdown is. There's a lot of parents who their kids are going to end up getting less instruction time. So the question is what are we really gaining just to be back in the schools? When at the end of the day, we should really be focusing on the public health. Because what's to stop what happened last year? We send our kids back into the school. We expose them back possibly to COVID, despite all the the precautions and the good intentions and the good work the CPS is putting into it. And then what's to stop you from having another, shortage of staff? And we find ourselves right back in a situation. It's like, all for what? What about the continuity that, while it's not perfect for anyone, because virtual learning is not perfect for anyone. I think 99% of the people are going to say virtual learning is not what I would choose. We all want to go back. And the only reason why we're not is because of COVID. But going back 2 days a week, is it really worth it for what? Is it because we start the ball rolling to get back to 5 days a week? Is that the rationale? Like I said, I seriously am struggling as to the logic of it.
Yeah. And, again, it to me, and let me just say, I was a fan and fully supported and voted for making sure that we gave a virtual option for those families who were uncomfortable. Right. And if you remember, we finally got that up and running, and then we went remote.
Right.
And so I think you'll probably hear that now, probably at this next meeting. And what I heard rumblings of is that pilot is going to be now executed again. So
virtual academy pilot, are you saying?
No, this was, because I've heard from lots of people that the digital academy was just not a sound option for their family.
It still isn't.
Right. And so what we heard was, for those of us who are uncomfortable, please give us an option with our home school.
Right.
And so that pilot, there's quite a few meetings about that, if you remember. And then there was a pilot that was going to be kicked off. I think it was like the first week of November or December. But then that must have been right when we made the decision. So then the superintendent announced, well, obviously we won't be doing that, because now the week of when we would have started that is when we were going remote before. So now that we're back in, I think we'll all hear that's going to be part of the plan
When
at our next meeting.
So you're saying that there's a possibility that you will be able to remain virtual, or choose the virtual option, and then stay at your home school?
Yeah, that was the plan. Like, we'd gotten to that point, but then we went virtual. And so, transparently, that was a question I specifically asked the superintendent last night. And so she will be bringing that to us at a next meeting.
When is the next meeting? Because school starts next week.
Yes. So so phase 1 is a pilot. And I don't know the details of the pilot. I think we got it presented to us previously. But we're together this Saturday. We have a meeting this Saturday, and then our next meeting, I expect that we will be hearing about this virtual option.
Yeah, I got to be honest with you. I know you hear this, Ryan, but these time frames with CPS and their rollouts, it's just really unfair to parents. So let's say on Saturday that you make a decision. That means the parents will have, a day in order to review whatever the pilot is and the options to really make an informed decision as to whether they want to put their child for the entire quarter, in a virtual academy. I mean, the timing is just, shouldn't this have been already dealt with last year, this year, if everybody on the board, the majority of the board, was so gung-ho to go back in February? That's what it seems like. It seems like you guys made this decision early on, and it didn't really matter what was happening, that we was going back in February, and then we just got to kind of figure things out along the way.
Well, I can assure you, I didn't know the answer in December, didn't know the answer in January. And, when we came together, that's when we made the decision. It wasn't like I had chatted with board members and said, hey, what do you think? What do you think? My conversation, frankly, was with our superintendent. Okay. And we each engaged with her kind of one-on-one. And, that's been routines. It's not like something that's out of process. But I would say that, that along with, the 2,800 and whatever emails, I mean, that's a big part of, what goes into the decision that I make. And frankly, I wouldn't wish this on anybody. But I know that it is the responsibility. And I know that 100% of the people will not always agree with me. But what I try to do is at least talk about how I have come to the decision.
Right.
And I'm always open, and I put my phone number out there, and some people think I'm kind of crazy for that because people actually call, and I enjoy that. If I haven't gotten back to somebody that's listening, I will. As I said, I had dedicated time after the kids go to bed at night to kind of respond and get into some pretty good dialogue with folks.
Well, people are fired up. Speaking of dialogue, people are fired up. Maurice writes, so why have you voted yes then? I think that goes back to, when you said that you believe that 3 feet of space, which is what Walnut Hills students and parents are going to have to deal with, is not safe. And I think that's a fair question. Like, if it's not safe during a pandemic, then why would you vote for it, Ryan? I still haven't gotten that. That, to me, that doesn't make any sense. Like, if during a pandemic that has cost 400,000 American lives, we know there's all kinds of folks that interact with this and their bodies deal with it differently. We made the decision to go to virtual because of it. Why would we make a decision to, at the very least, not delay a month, if not longer, if you personally believe that it's not the safest option for Walnut Hills parents and students?
Well, again, that Saturday, you heard it. We heard from the experts, and I'm looking at people that this is their job at Children's, and their recommendation was it's safe. And then what we heard earlier this week from the same, and I'm not saying that they didn't get different data that changed, but the people that I was looking to as the experts and saying, is this safe? I'm not at Children's. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a medical expert. And I think we have to identify at least somebody who can inform us, because outside of that, it's just my personal opinion. And I want to weigh somebody who wakes up every day as a researcher. Children's is it's the top 2 best children's hospitals in the world. And when they have designated 2 people to say, these are the 2 people you should be looking to, they are 2 of our best, that's who I'm looking to give me confidence, yay or nay, on is this safe for our community and is it safe for our children? Okay. So, but I believe as they evolve, because there is no book out there to how to deal with a pandemic like COVID. So as things evolve, we have to be fast and flexible to evolve with the data.
Okay. I'm with you. So you're saying that on Saturday you were presented data and it made you feel one way. Since then, you feel like those same people that gave you the data have kind of changed a bit. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, Monday night, it felt very different. And I think I heard that from other people like, well, that sounds very different. So then I think you have to be, and that was frankly the conversation, as I said, I had last night with our superintendent.
Okay.
And I will, and I've, made sure that our president knew as well. Okay. And I think you'll hear us talk about that.
And I think that's fair. I expect to hear that conversation, but will we see you enter a motion similar to Mike Morosky's motion, with the upcoming board meeting saying, hey, listen, I feel differently now. I think we should start in March because going back 3 feet in Walnut Hills is not safe. Is that something that you're going to do?
Yeah, I think the Walnut Hills is a subset to your point. It's different than what we've established as the norm. And so, yes, I will be bringing that to the board for discussion. And then,
discussion or motion?
Well, I mean, I could put a motion. That was kind of the first that we've operated like that. It's a board, it's a consensus board. And so what typically has happened is people, if there's a topic for discussion, you'll hear us publicly debate it. And so,
I think a motion just puts everybody on the record and also says, to me, the way I read as a member of the public, it says something about the strength and your force behind how much you feel about it, right? That's why I say, I still don't understand why the board voted against Mike Morosky's motion to move to March when there's so many question marks, so much, so many variants, and there's so much fear out there.
So my question is that motion more important than my superintendent's decision? And yes. I know, and
it's because the most important thing, Ryan, is public health, the safe of our students, the safety of the people that work in the schools. To me, that's number one. There's nothing's more important than health. Nothing's more important than that. That's number one. Because if you're not healthy, then the academics don't matter. If you're dead or laying in the hospital, you ain't studying. So health of the staff and the students is number one. Don't you agree with that?
Of course. I think all of us believe that.
Right.
And
but
so
I feel as if the actions don't reflect it.
Yeah, well, and I think so health has to be like, you have to say, is this safe? And what we heard, what I believe our superintendents heard, is that from these medical experts, they believe it is safe based on the all the mitigations that we've put in place, the temperature checks, the testing, blah, 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 the whole plans. And that has been recognized as some of the best in the state, as told by our governor. And, I see the comment here, I'm putting the decision on the superintendent. No, I'm saying the superintendent's going to bring a recommendation. And what I'm saying is I respect her and the complexity of the data she's looking at, and the recommendation she's making. And, of course, we have questions of people that's advising her. We can ask them questions, et cetera. But, absolutely, that has to be a key driver because, our administration, they are working 24/7 on this issue, which is more than any of us on the board can claim.
Right. But again, my question is, can we expect to see a motion from you? Because now, as you said, you feel differently about Walnut Hills, saying, hey, listen, let's pump the brakes here, school board, because now we're getting some contradicting, information from the so-called experts, and 3 feet of distance is not safe. So why would we, if you believe that, Ryan, in good conscience, how can you vote to send these students back into the environment that you yourself do not believe is safe? In good conscience.
No, and that's why I said I brought it up last night, and absolutely be bringing it to the board.
Are you going to join with Mike Morosky in a motion? At least it'll be two of you now on the record saying, "Look, this is what we think should happen because of public health." I mean, conversations are cool. With the motion, that to me that seems to be a stronger way of making your point and getting everybody on the record about this.
Yeah, and yes, and that's what I think you'd see at council. And you know what, I went to the school put on by the Ohio School Board Association, and there was a great description of why this is different than kind of an individual voting body and what a consensus board. And I think there is a difference between the two. And in a consensus body, you try to have a conversation that's open, and then weigh in the facts, and frankly, hopefully get the board to the best possible outcome. And in this case, I know I'm not the only one getting these messages about the 3 feet. That's probably what has absolutely filled my inbox since we made this decision.
Right.
And
For
I
good
think
reason.
it's completely, complicated everything else.
I keep hearing complicated. To me, it's real simple. And members of my audience say that I'm being harsh. It's about public safety. It's about public safety. Health is wealth. We all say that in our personal lives. It has to apply to the school as well. So I want to make sure we get you on the record. Was that a yes? You will introduce a motion saying, hey, listen, Walnut Hills is not safe 3 feet. Maybe we should wait until March.
What I absolutely am going to do is raise it in a board discussion that it appears to me that the data of the recommendation, sorry, my computer just went. The recommendation or the advice we were getting from the healthcare professionals changed. So therefore, I think we have to have a different conversation. And so, frankly, I think I would tick off my board members if I put out a motion without the discussion. And what I try to do is be a good team player, because we are all there's probably no secret. This is a very interesting board in that everybody has a very different background. Obviously, everybody cares about education, cares about our kids and our schools, but very different. And I'm no more important than any of the other 6. So that's why I think it has to be a discussion that you get everybody thinking through. And here's what I saw. Did you see something different? I don't think we did.
A lot of comments are coming in from all over the place. So, and again, I believe that all the board members, I have to believe this. I don't know any of the board members personally, but I would have to believe that to do that work, to take that job on, then you've got to care. But my question is let's take it away from the parents and the students for a second here. Let's talk about the teachers. I haven't done this, but from what I've seen, if you did do a survey of the teachers, and my question is, was there any input from the teachers? They would choose not to go back on February 1st as well. They would choose to, at the very earliest, go back on March 1st so that those who choose to take the vaccine can get vaccinated and hopefully get as fully protected as a vaccine can give you. What do you say to teachers who are going to be on the front line? In some cases, if you're dealing with special ed teachers, they're dealing with, children that might be mask exempt. So they're going to be in a classroom with a kid, with a student, close quarters with no mask on. What do you say to these teachers, so many of them, who are concerned for their personal safety, Ryan, in terms of going back in February?
Yeah, I think this is another really tough but interesting conversation. I am surrounded by teachers in my private life. I have 3 families that we have co-quarantined with, that each have a family member. One of the parents is a teacher. There are lots of teachers in my periphery. As you know, I was, I mean, most people know, supported by the teachers because I support the teachers regularly and ongoing. I've pushed for the Q12 engagement work to make sure that our teachers' voices are being heard, as it is in most any other company or organization, that you're measuring employee engagement and getting them in the conversation. So I absolutely believe the teachers' voices matter. But what I'll say is, it is absolutely what I am hearing from the teachers I know, that it's as divided as the community. There are many teachers who are saying my kids need to be back in school. And get emails, we get just like we get from the community, we're getting emails from teachers who also believe that we need to be back in school. And again, I think if we had data survey presented, I think we could see that. It's not an easy answer for our teachers either.
So what you're saying is you believe, I mean, what about the CFT? I mean, what does their opinion matter? From what I gather, they're against it. They represent the teachers. Okay. So from what I'm getting from them is that they think that going back to school starting on February 1st is unsafe. That was the quote. Correct?
Yes, that's correct. And I have to say, personally, it's probably the thing that's bothered me the most in this entire pandemic, is kind of this point, because we haven't been this at odds between kind of what the district is doing and what the teachers are doing. And I have to say that's one of the things that bothers me the most, frankly. And it's not something that we're dealing with just in Cincinnati. I mean, I think that's absolutely what you see on the news. It's happening in districts all over not all the districts, but a lot of districts. So yes, I will say this has personally bothered me. And I have read every email. I've read every letter that came in from some of our teacher groups. Many of the buildings submitted letters. So yes, this probably is one of the most difficult pieces of kind of the whole pandemic is kind of that at odds with our most valuable employees.
Yeah, I've even heard that there's some talk about suing the district on behalf of the teachers and maybe even parents. I mean, that's how serious this is. Shelley writes, we are entering a burning house, which I agree with. The fire's not out yet. You know, Ryan, the fire's not out yet when it comes to the pandemic and COVID. The house is still ablaze. And yet you and the board voted to send us right back into a house that's on fire. Even by your own admission, you realize that it's not the safest option. And I've heard you say that you took the recommendation of the school board, the superintendent, but the public voted for you to make these decisions to direct her. I understand she's going to inform you. Obviously, that makes sense. But the public voted for you to set the policy for her, not the other way around. And here we are in the middle of a pandemic, and it seems like, by your own admission, you and the board are making unsafe or not the safest, I'll put it that way, not the safest decisions. And then the superintendent, obviously, her expertise matters, but she's not in the classroom. The teachers are. And the CFT is saying they think it's unsafe. It just, all the way down the line, it just doesn't compute to me. I say that truly, genuinely, and honestly, right? It just doesn't match up to me, Ryan, as to why there's this rush to push us back while we're in purple. We're not meeting the criteria in terms of the data that the administration put forward and the board voted on last year. I think last year was 40 per 100,000. And I know that the governor kind of changed that to 48, but we're at 53 now, which is higher than 48, obviously. So, I'll tell you what, cynically, a lot of people feel like it's wealthy white folks that's making a decision. I keep hearing wealthy white folks from Hyde Park is bending the ear of the school board, which, let's be real here, the school board in terms of racial diversity does not reflect the school system itself. So I'm hearing a lot of that, primarily from black folks. A lot of folks are saying it's the wealthy white folks that's making the decisions. Are you hearing that? And how would you respond to that?
Well, and again, maybe this is the audience is going to necessarily agree or disagree. I don't know, but all I can say is where I stand personally. And I think if people would know me personally, I'm not surrounded only by white folks. One thing that's unique about Cincinnati is there is a diversity within our school district. And I think in some ways that helps us because we have broad spread support of our school district. I think if you compare us to the other urbans, where many are in the 90 percentile of children with free and reduced lunch, we're significantly less than that, which gives us a stronger district because there's more of a base of support and helps us pass levies that allow us to continue to grow and achieve the things that, frankly, before the pandemic, we had lots of great news of what was happening at CPS. And so, I probably have been on that other side, frankly, of, trying to throw things that distract from the conversation. This past 4 years have given me lots of practice to be mad and frustrated with the other side and make assumptions and that type of thing. But the one thing is, I think we all care about CPS. And I think we all care about our kids. And it doesn't matter where you live or what neighborhood or whatever. We're still parents. We're still taxpayers. We're still voters. That's the piece that we have in common. And I don't think, and that's why I think we could do a better job with their data. I don't think it's as crystal clear as maybe some want to make it, that it's those with means that want their kids in and those without means that don't want their kids in. I don't think it's that easy. And it's definitely not what I have observed. Just if you look at my social network, it's very diverse. People that were neighbors of mine who are single parents and those types of things, I've had, lots of these conversations with them. Kids that are in my children's class that don't look like my children and their families look very different than my families and that type of thing. Yes, we are a very diverse district. And I think that can be good in that it helps get broad spread community support for our school district and the levies that allow our schools to continue. And at the same time, I think it comes up in situations like this is it could be a divider, the diversity that we have. And I think that's where we have to show data that we are looking at all stakeholders and representing that so people can't make those assumptions, because in absence of data, we make assumptions. I think we own that piece.
Somebody wants to know, what are your plans for your own children? Are you going to send your children to school or remain virtual?
We will go into school.
Going to school. Okay. Yeah. I think that's fair. I think from a leadership standpoint, you should be willing to ask people to do what you want them to do. But again, from a Walnut Hills standpoint, that you don't have any children that'll be at Walnut Hills, which I think that's a real problem. Yes. Are you aware of the petitions that are circulating right now? Does that influence you at all? Your decision's been made. I even read that not only did CPS vote down Mike Morosky's motion, but you voted, and I'm not sure, that the headline was, and you're not going to revisit it, something like that. Is that true?
No, I don't think there's anything that.
Okay, well,
I don't think there's any mechanism that would allow you to block anything from being revisited.
And so it sounds to me like you're hesitant to go as far as Mike Morosky did in terms of putting forward a motion saying that we should not go back until March. Is that what I'm picking up on? You said you'll bring it up as a conversation, which is one thing, but it sounds like you don't want to bring it up as a motion because you think it'll put you at odds with the superintendent or something.
No. And I think, I think I saw some comments here, and I like how that kind of shows you can kind of see some things come up. I'm not placing any blame on the superintendent. What I'm saying is I respect her and her opinion, and it weighs heavily. I value that in the decision making that I make. I'm not saying, whatever she says goes. There's been other things where I've taken that in and I said, and based on this, here's kind of where I've landed. But I do respect her opinion, and especially in these times where it is so complex, that, probably in your friend network, it's just as diverse as probably my friend network, where people all over the board. So what I have to do is, I'm not trying to make a decision, that's based on, trying to get votes and these types of things. What I want to do is be able to make a decision that people say, he's looking at the whole child. He's looking at the full picture. And based on the data at hand, he's making the decision that he feels is right for the district as a whole, for the children, that prioritizes keeping kids safe, keeping our staff safe, and then making sure that, we're doing the best to mitigate the obstacles that, frankly, we already work to take away from so many of our children.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's obvious that it's not the best, Ryan, because the best would be a later start in March. The best for Walnut Hills would be at least 6 feet. And since you can't give them, since 6 feet is not an option in terms of a blended learning option, then the best would be for Walnut Hills to remain virtual. That would be the best. The board is not choosing the best. They're choosing what they think is good enough.
Well, I'll agree, you are hearing me agree with you on that one.
Right. And again, good enough. What's good enough is too close to mediocre. I mean, our children in our district, our parents, our teacher deserve the best option, right? Not just what's good enough to satisfy what? This idea that having 2 days with a mask on in class, you don't even have the whole full class there, is socially better for children, even though they're going to get less instruction time. I'm just trying to make this make sense, Ryan. It still don't add up. It still doesn't make any sense. And I would love to see you put that motion in. I don't know why you're so hesitant about that when you agree with these basic core concepts.
Yeah. I think it's the difference between the type of board the school board is and another body like a council. What you'll hear me say is, I will publicly say I think it's the right thing to do based on the fact that the data changed, or at least the recommendation on the person I'm looking to for the expert opinion on health. I believe that if that changed, then we have to revisit this and we have to change. I have heard people say, well, heck, once you make a decision, you just got to go. That's wrong. It's not right in my personal life. It's not working in my professional life, at my company. I think you have to evolve and be able to make decisions along the way. So you will hear me say, I don't think it's the right thing to do. But of course, I can't do that until we're actually in a meeting.
Right. But we won't hear you or see you put in a motion like Mike Morosky did. Is it a politeness kind of thing? Is it like you want to keep a good relationship with everybody? I don't understand.
I think it's a protocol. And I think after bring it up as a topic for discussion, then I think it would be appropriate to move that based on this. And then, yeah, and I have no fear having people make a decision. But, I think having the discussion and be able to say, and based on this discussion and based on, I move that we put the brakes on that one, because it again, I heard something very different on Saturday than I heard this week, which definitely this world's moving pretty quickly. You're only as good as the most recent data, the most recent information you're getting from the national level, the local level, and I think we have to evolve as that information comes in.
Somebody writes, not answering the questions. Somebody writes, 6 feet is the minimum, not a maximum. Somebody writes, is CPS going to lose federal dollars if kids aren't in an actual school? That's come up quite a few times. Is that a part of the decision making from the board? Is it federal dollars?
At this point, and I think we're in a much better place than we would have been before. I think with the new administration, with the new Secretary of Education, I absolutely think that we're in a much better spot. So I don't feel that we're going to lose dollars. Now, there was a commitment. Obviously, some people didn't like that the governor put on, distribution of the vaccines and that type of thing. And I think the beauty, how we got them earlier, was that the superintendent was asked, okay, if you're ready, if you want these vaccines, are you ready? Do you have a plan? And that plan was reviewed with the governor, which then gave us access. And I think it's one of those where, good preparation creates its own luck. We were able to move our people up faster in that line, which is a great thing. But, the thing is, and I am not a trained politician. This is the first time I've ever run for anything. I see a couple comments like the pause and thinking through, it's not like I've had a lifetime of practice of how you spin things and all this. There's none of that. It's that this is truly that hard for me and all of us. I really believe nobody, this board, I respect each of them. And I think all of us have struggled with this. We're staying up late at night. I don't think, it's just not an easy conversation. 4 years ago, did I think I'd be sitting here? No. Am I honored about doing it? Yes. I feel like it's a privilege to be able to serve and to know that, of these 2,800 emails that I've gotten over time, there's not an easy, you can't just come up with this is the summation of the result, what everybody thinks. There's no easy answer. And I think that kind of early survey gave an indication of just where people are. 50% think this, 50% think this.
Yeah, but we both admitted that survey was done, like you said, when you get more information. That was done last year. Now we are at purple. So I don't think it's a stretch to believe that if you did a survey now while we're in purple, that you're going to get different opinions than we did 6, 7, 8 months ago before we were in purple. So, I mean, I don't think that's something I don't even think it's reliable at this point to even draw any conclusions from, because we are in a different stage. Like, the heat has been turned up, Ryan. So I would imagine if you did a survey, and again, that I'll be honest with you, I believe part of the reason why there wasn't a survey done, I'll just be transparent with you, is because, let's be real, we're at purple. Whoever the survey was more than likely going to say, hey, let's not go back. And I felt like the board and administration wants to push everybody back as quickly as possible for whatever reason, and that it would have been far more difficult to do that when you have a survey that would clearly say, hey, we're at purple, let's stay virtual. That's what I believe. Because again, if not, you could have proposed it. You could have pushed for it in some of these board meetings in late 2020 or in early 2021, but that didn't happen.
Yeah. And as I said, I publicly said I would like to see that survey, at that last meeting. And it's absolutely something that I want to build into this engagement work that you'll see from the presentation. We've got to do a better job. One thing the district did put in is this POSIP survey, where parents get a text or a quick survey and they can respond. That's our first step, I think, in helping us pull in that information. And, I think you probably heard in the last meeting, I think we're going to get an update. It was asked to have an update on that for our next meeting. I think that that is a new part of our culture, this new platform, to get us kind of to a point where families can engage with the district on a regular basis, and we'll actually have data that we can respond to.
Mm-hmm. Patty writes, teachers want to teach, and right now they are teaching every day. They just know that education is not greater than living. Yeah, I mean, teachers are teaching now. That's the untold part of this. It's the idea that there aren't academic success stories. It's the idea that teachers aren't teaching, that learning is not going on. All those things are happening right now virtually. It may not be ideal, but I think that the narrative about it is being suppressed because it doesn't fit, what the board wants to do and what a lot of people want to do, which is get back in person, which is dangerous right now.
And this may not be what people want to hear. I believe teachers are teaching. I think we've got some great success stories, and I've shared them on my Facebook. I've said publicly in the meeting, I don't believe it's just my teachers. I've seen it throughout the district. Teachers have stepped up. I hear stories of where teachers are driving materials to kids' homes. Teachers are helping to coordinate getting food to kids and all sorts of additional above and beyond. Our teachers are the unsung heroes of the pandemic. So yes, as the quote said here, teachers are teaching. The question is, are our kids learning?
What does the data say? You've got their academic records. What's the data say? Are GPAs going up? How are children doing with the standardized tests that they're getting through virtual learning?
Well, again, I think that's what we owe the community. And I think when we look at academic performance and we look at just attendance, I think it will talk about how complex the situation is. And I think we owe that to the community to be able to talk about that. And I know that was an assignment that, again, we'll be hearing publicly reported.
Okay, so you've looked at the data you're saying already, or you said it needs to be looked at?
Well, what I say is I know the district has looked at it, and I think it's definitely data that our community needs to see. Because
what does it say?
Well, I think you're going to see that attendance has been challenging for certain demographics, and then overall performance across success metrics that we benchmark. Not that it's not going to be impacted because of COVID everywhere, but the question is, how will that compare to the impact in other places? Because then there's another story of how do you mitigate now? And how do you make up? And I know that, there are some who are totally against us thinking about programming over the summer, for example. I'm not excited necessarily about it, but I definitely feel like our kids should do that if it's needed to get us back on track. So there's going to be a whole lot of conversations about kind of the after effects as well, I think.
Well, Ryan, listen, I appreciate your time, man. You gave us a lot of time this morning, answered most of the questions. I had to go back a few times to try to get some answers and some clarity, but I appreciate your time. You didn't have to do this. I appreciate it. And hopefully we can stay connected. And, we'll be paying attention to what you do in the next school board meeting. I'd love to see that motion, put some strength and some teeth behind it, get people on the record. And I appreciate your honesty this morning. I'll give you the final word.
Yeah, and I would just say, I love engaging with the public, and I will publicly, give my phone number. It's 513-254-3523, 513-254-3523. If you want to send that out, my personal email is ryanlmesser@gmail. But I would love, I'm only as good as the engagement that I can have with people that are in the community, that are facing this from all various backgrounds. So I'm absolutely open to people calling me. And some people say, I can't believe you publicly give that as often as you do. You're probably going to regret this. No, it's my job. Now, it may be calling back in the evenings or in the mornings before work, because I do have a job that I have to balance. My company's been very supportive of me being able to serve the district in this way, but I'm always open to a conversation. And what I'm also going to say is I never just here's my decision, that's what it's going to be forever, because I just don't think that's how good decisions can be made.
Ryan, thank you for your time. I appreciate you. And again, let's stay connected.
Thank you, sir.
Yep.
Have a great day.
Yeah, you too.
Bye-bye.
That's Ryan Messer. And say what you want, man. He gave us more time than Pam Bowers did. That's all I can say. I know sis had things to do, but facts is facts. I appreciate it. Again, these folks don't have to come on the show and spend time with us. So I appreciate it 100%, and him being as honest as he felt like he wanted to be. And I tried to get as many of the questions in and just kind of flash them. I could tell that Ryan was reading them, as most people do. They can see it on the screen, and people got all kind of opinions, and I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Hey, Herschel's trying to call me, man, because I told him to call back today, but my conversation with Ryan went a little further. So I'm going to ask Herschel to reconnect with me tomorrow. So tomorrow we have we're going to take a departure tomorrow. We're going to talk a little culture tomorrow. I've got a special guest who was a member of the R&B hip hop group Tony. And I came across a documentary some time ago about what the backstory. It is amazing, family. So we'll give a little bit of departure from what we've been talking about here locally. That'll be tomorrow. I think our conversation is going to start at 9 a.m. And then on Thursday, we'll talk with Carolyn Jones, who is the president of the Cincinnati School Board. But I thought that was quite interesting. I hope the media grabs some quotes. So what we heard from Ryan is what I have been saying. And that is, it ain't the safest option. What we heard from Ryan Messer is that 3 feet rule ain't safe. I didn't need for the medical experts to tell me that. Just common sense. Come on now. Just straight up common sense will tell you that. So I wanted to try to nail him down on doing a motion. He would never agree to. He said he'll bring it up. Well, I don't doubt you'll bring it up, but you're going to put some teeth behind it. What's wrong with doing a motion? We need more motions. If a motion is impolite, we need more of that. Too much Cincinnati polite is killing us. Too much Cincinnati polite is a problem. If the board members don't like a motion, so what? Get over it. Put you on record. Put some teeth in it. That way, because we're going to have a whole bunch of forums and stuff, and I'm getting contacted right now about forums and hosting. I can't wait. I'm ready for it. I'm ready for it. Because all this is going to come back up. That's what a motion does. It puts you on the record. We need to know how you feel about these critical things. So let's review what we said. Board member Ryan Messer believes that 3 feet of space at Walnut Hills is not safe. If you want to hear a parent, you heard it there first. We already know this. Starting in March 1st would be safer than starting on February 1st. And Ryan Messer says that the reason why he voted for it essentially is he was taking the directives of the superintendent. You're the policymaker, set the policy. She follows your policy, not the other way around. Not saying that you shouldn't be informed by her viewpoint, but she ain't the only viewpoint. You got parents and you got the teachers. He tried to say, oh, the teachers got different opinions. And I'm sure there are some teachers who are like, I can't wait to get back in class. I'm sure that's out there. But by far across the board, what I've seen is that teachers like, hold on, we ain't getting vaccinated. I don't want to be there. It's a real big concern. The teachers that were on that January 20th video call, overwhelmingly, I would have to say it was like 98% of the teachers said, no, don't do it. Let us get vaccinated first. I think there's a real split in the parents, though. I think he's right about that. I don't know what those numbers are, but CPS should have these numbers. Why didn't they do a survey? I'll tell you why. Because they don't want to hear what you got to say. That's what I believe. The survey would have been even more difficult. There's no way in the world that I believe that if you do a survey during a pandemic, even to parents like myself that want their kids to go back to school, and I see it's people in there still with that nonsense, but please stop it, bro, sis, knock it off. Every parent wants their kid to be in school right now. It don't matter what your lifestyle is or your privileges. All parents believe, unless you decide to go homeschool option and you got some other issues, that the best place, the best learning environment for your child is in school. All parents want that. I want that. My wife wants that. All the parents I know want that. The only reason why our kids aren't there is because of COVID. People keep forgetting that. Brian said he don't like the analogy. You might not like the analogy, Brian, but it's a perfect analogy of a burning house. That's exactly what it is. You are asking people to rush back into a burning house before the fire has been fully extinguished. It is a perfect analogy. And you would never do that when it comes to a fire, but people think they can control the virus. Oh, the medical experts told me this. These medical experts are learning on the job. They don't know. They cannot tell. And no scientist is going to say that. No scientist is going to tell you 100%. They are guesstimating based upon the available data in front of them. They don't know what tomorrow brings. Just like nobody could foresee that California was going to have their own variant of COVID, which they do now have. Nobody could foresee that Brazil was going to have their own variant of COVID, for which now they found the first case of the Brazil variant in the United States. Is it going to come to you, Cincinnati? You don't know. And there's no scientist out there that can tell us otherwise. None of them. Because that would be unscientific. So as human beings, we just stop acting like we can control Mother Nature. That's going to get us effed up. I guarantee that the last days of human beings on this earth will be caused by human beings and their hubris and their arrogance, thinking they got everything figured out. They do not have everything figured out. They don't understand COVID completely. They don't understand why some people get sicker than most. They don't understand the long-term effects on your heart muscle. They don't understand that because we haven't had enough time to research it. So all these folks out here figuring like you got it all figured out, you don't know a damn thing. And neither do the scientists. They know some. They might not they know more than you and me, but they don't have it all figured out because the situation is fluid. It's changing, right? Just like the mutation of COVID-19. What if the virus mutates and it comes to Cincinnati? Are the vaccines that people are taking right now going to prevent them from getting it? And even with the vaccine, it doesn't stop you from being a carrier. That's the other thing with the vaccine. The vaccine, just as I understand it, and correct me if I'm wrong, the same information on the internet like everybody else. It doesn't stop you from being a carrier spreading it. It stops you from getting super sick from it. So you can get teachers who's going to get vaccinated and still carry it to the children who can carry it back home to you. Stop playing games with this. We're playing games with the wrong thing. You don't understand. Nobody really understands. But people feel like that's like, I don't know, the wrong thing to say. What's wrong with saying, listen, we don't understand everything, so we're going to keep it safe? What's wrong with that? Oh, it's the whining ass, complaining, belly aching parents that don't want to take care of their own children and you got to work. Well, guess what? You had those children. You're going to have to make it happen. It is completely unfair for you whining ass, belly aching, complaining parents to put these teachers' lives in jeopardy, the custodians' lives in jeopardy, the administrators' lives in jeopardy, the bus drivers' lives in jeopardy because you can't take care of your kid. I don't care what the situation is. That's the facts. Harsh or not, that's where we are, period. Period. It's unfair. So somebody else should die for your kid, but you shouldn't sacrifice for your kid. Huh? You asking people who didn't have your child to get sick for your child because it's hard for you. Well, welcome to parenthood. It's hard. You gave up your adulthood when you decided to become a parent. Nobody told you to do that. You got options. Speaking of all these options, you had options. You choose to become a parent, mom. You choose to become a parent, dad. It comes with a whole lot of foreseen and unforeseen stuff. Oh, welcome to parenthood. You gave your adulthood up. It is what it is. Same thing with me. We gave it up. It is what it is. We're going to have to make it happen, Captain. So I thought it was quite interesting. I still ask the same question. I talked to Pam Bowers. Didn't make a lot of sense. Didn't see any things, no real logic behind it other than, and then Ryan was like, well, in April would be safer. Yeah, it would be. Yeah, what's wrong with that? You've been virtual this long. Then he brought up the academics. So again, somebody out there logically tell me how less access to your instructional primary teacher is better for your academic chances. Because that's what they're going to get, right? They're going to get less access than they have now. How does that make sense? How does that help you academically? It does not. Like, we can have our own facts, but our own opinions, but the facts are the facts. Nobody can argue against that. Shelly writes, I can find data to support whatever. That does not mean it's true. Yo writes, speaking to Danita, I thought that he was just asking him a question. Danita's going in on me. I think she said something about this is Nate's platform and something. I don't understand what the point was. I can't see the comment anymore. So many comments coming in. I don't understand your point, Anita. You're right. This is the Nathan Ivey Show. And what's your point? It's not going to change the facts. And the facts remain just like I told you. 1, virtual academy is not a fair option. 2, starting in March is safer than February. 3, parents were not contacted. They weren't. Why weren't they contacted? You know, Ryan said, I'm a data guy. I'm a survey guy. Okay, then why didn't you push for a survey? Then he started yabba dabba doing, talking about the school, the superintendent, and something that happened last year. Yeah, but if you're a survey guy, Ryan, why didn't you push for a survey for parents? You could have. Because that survey would have came back overwhelmingly, stay virtual. And that would have been at odds, in my opinion, from what I'm picking up now, was the overall will of the board. What's wrong with Mike Morosky putting in a motion? What's wrong with that? I mean, it's a consensus body. And I don't get it. What's the problem with that? Too much Cincinnati politeness. Everybody wants to be able to be friends, and I don't want to have no confrontational moments, and I want to be liked, and I want to have a good working relationship. We ain't got to agree to have a good working relationship. Just keep your eye on the ball. Simple as that. And if you keeping your eye on the ball and I'm keeping my eye on the ball, then we can push the ball forward. Simple. We ain't got to agree on everything. I argue with my brothers and sisters all the time. Still love them. It's simple. Real simple. Let me see here. Jenny writes, give us options. CDA is not a viable option. He admitted that. CDA is not a viable option. I talked to Pam Bowers. She talked in some circles and didn't want to answer some questions, but essentially what I gathered is she agreed as well. CDA is not a viable option. And that's what I've been telling people. Like, virtual, nobody wants to be virtual. Everybody wants to be in the schools. The parents want the children to go to school. The children want to be in school. The teachers want you to be in school. All of the partners, the whole ecosystem works better when the kids are in school. The reason that they're not is because that there is a deadly, highly contagious virus called corona. Just to let some folks know. That's highly contagious. Over 400,000 Americans have already been killed. And in Hamilton County, we are at the highest infection rate that we have been in since this started. That's the reason why we're not. None of that has changed. Nothing has changed, quite honestly, other than the governor has played some games with the calculations. That's about it. Other than that, nothing has really changed. Hold on one second, family. All right, listen, I got to make a move. I really appreciate everybody. That's my signal right there. I'm just going to make a move with it. I really appreciate